Chapter 1804. Boom! The sword chi from Jinshin's fingertip collided with Wainer Yan's fist, immediately erupting with the sound of a car door. However, Wainer Yan's fist was extremely tough. His fist was enveloped by a layer of powerful power of laws, directly taking on Jinshin's sword chi with his body. Jinshin's sword chi immediately shattered under Wainer Yan's punch, dispersing into the surroundings as countless strands of sword chi. Wainer Yan's body trembled slightly as well. He staggered a few steps back uncontrollably. A gash had appeared on his head as blood oozed out. At the same time, defensive formations immediately appeared in the discussion hall, blocking the shockwaves of energy. However, the defensive formations were created by Mo Ling and Ando Fu, so their defensive abilities were limited. They were more than enough to block the attacks of gods, but they were extremely fragile before the shockwaves of energy from a battle between overgods. As soon as the defensive formations appeared, they were shattered by the powerful shockwaves from Jinshin and Wainer Yan's battle. As the energy ripples spread and wreaked havoc, all the heavenly god ancestors of the powerful clans gathered in the hall were caught in the crossfire. Many of their faces changed as they staggered backwards under the powerful energy ripples. Some of them even had blood dripping from the corners of their mouths as their faces paled. Clearly, they had suffered some minor injuries. Only the three late gods of the Dong and province managed to remain where they were with their great cultivations. However, they did their best to block the shockwaves. The discussion hall shook violently. Even though the materials used to construct the discussion hall were extremely tough, it was unable to withstand the attacks of an overgod without the protection of powerful formations. With a heavy thud, the majestic discussion hall directly collapsed, reduced to a pile of ruins. Dust filled the air as dust kicked into the air. Jinshin remained standing before the patriarch's throne. At this moment, only the throne behind him remained intact. Naturally, Shangwan Mu'er, who was protected behind him, was unscathed as well. However, both Jinshin and Shangwan Mu'er's faces had become extremely sunken at this moment. Today was the founding ceremony of the Tianyuan family. On such a sacred day for the Tianyuan family, the overgods of the Wainer clan had actually struck out without any regard for the occasion, tearing down the discussion hall of the Tianyuan family. Their actions were basically a slap to the Tianyuan family's face. All the ancestors of the powerful clans in the Dong and province could not help but look at each other as they stared at the collapsed discussion hall. They had directly destroyed the discussion hall of the Tianyuan family on such an important day. This made all of them realize that the grievances between the Tianyuan family and the Wainer clan were huge. Mu'er, you can leave first. Protect yourself. Jinshin's face was extremely sunken. His gaze was as cold as a sword, and a powerful killing intent flashed through his eyes. He said to Shangwan Mu'er softly. His eyes were filled with sharpness as he stared at the fearless Wainer Yan. Be careful, Shangwan Mu'er said gently from behind Jinshin. She slowly backed away. She knew that Jinshin had truly been angered. Wainer Yan gradually became stern as well. Although he had expected a result like this before he had taken action, he did not take it to heart at all. Even though Jinshin was also an overgod, he did not take it to heart either, because he was a protector of the Earth Spirit sect, let alone the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xin Do, who had to fear him. Even the Divine King would have to consider the consequences carefully if he wanted to touch him. As a result, he did not fear the Tianyuan family at all with such a powerful background. However, his heart suddenly skipped a beat when he saw the sharp, murderous gaze of the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. He had a very bad feeling, so he immediately raised his guard secretly. Suddenly, Jinshin shot into the air. A layer of powerful and sharp sword chi permeated his surroundings, shining with bright white light. He seemed to have become a huge sword as he flew out of the city with lightning speed. Wainer Yan, I'll be waiting for you outside the city. I'd like to see just how capable a protector of the Earth Spirit sect is to act so recklessly in my Tianyuan family. Jinshin's voice boomed out like thunder, echoing through the entire city. Wainer Yin could hear the contempt and provocation in Jinshin's voice. He immediately frowned, and with a cold snort, he directly chased after Jinshin. 1,000,000 kilometers away from the provincial city, Jinshin hovered 10,000 meters in the air with a sunken face. His white clothes fluttered in the wind, and his hair danced in the wind as he glared at Wainer Yin. In particular, the soaring aura that radiated from his body was like a sharp sword that shot straight into the sky, causing the wind and clouds to tremble. Wainer Yin, I'll make you understand today that my Tianyuan family is not a place where just anyone can act recklessly. Even if you're a protector of the Earth Spirit sect, you can't do whatever you want in the provincial city, Jinshin said coldly. Wainer Yin hovered in the air before Jinshin with his arms crossed. He was fearless as he said coldly, "The provincial city belongs to my Wainer clan. It's not up to you to tell me what to do in the provincial city. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, do it. Let's see just how powerful you are. Don't disappoint me." A cold light flickered through Jinshin's eyes. He took a step in the air, crossing 1,000 meters with a single step. He appeared before Wainer Yin like he had teleported, and he directly extended a finger toward Wainer Yin's forehead. As he pointed, a powerful sword light condensed in an instant, emitting a sword aura that soared into the sky. Clearly, the sword chi was much more powerful than the one he had used in the discussion hall. Jinshin had only dealt with Wainer Yin's attack casually in the discussion hall. Only now could he be considered to have truly taken action. You want to kill me right from the start. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, I, Wainer Yin, am not that easy to kill, Wainer Yin said coldly. His arms rapidly swelled, and his muscles bulged. He seemed extremely powerful. His hands became extremely thick at that moment as well. His fingers were like metal, filled with power. They flickered with a bronze light as he directly swung his hands towards Jinshin's sword chi. Chapter 1805. Clang. This time, when Jinshin's sword chi landed on Wainer Yin's hand, it actually produced the thrum of metal. Wainer Yin's hand was so tough that it had reached an unimaginable level. Jinshin's eyes narrowed slightly as he stared at Wainer Yin in surprise. An extremely great force was transmitted from Wainer Yin's hand. Through the sword chi he had condensed at the tip of his finger, it was directly transmitted to Jinshin. The sword chi condensed at the tip of Jinshin's finger immediately dimmed. The great force formed an invisible force that shot over, instantly reducing the clothes on his arm to dust. Even his body could not help but take a step back from the powerful force. The laws of strength. A gleam of light flashed through Jinshin's eyes as he murmured. The laws of strength represented the limits of energy in the world. Anyone who grasped the laws of strength would possess an unbelievable level of brute force. Most importantly, the laws of strength were also known as one of the laws with the greatest offensive force among the 3,000 laws. This was because strength represented attack, and it was an extremely pure attack. Wainer Yin glanced at his huge hand that flickered with bronze light. He saw that there was a deep wound on his hand that had been filled with vigor and strength. Although he had blocked Jinshin's sword chi with his body, his hand was injured. Wainer Yin was secretly shocked by the wound on his hand. He had not truly used his full strength in the discussion hall earlier, so it was normal for his hand to be injured by Jinshin's strand of sword chi. However, he had already used his full strength now. He had even used the battle skill he had learned from the Earth Spirit sect to strengthen his hand, yet he was still unable to block Jinshin's sword chi. It had to be mentioned that the unique battle skill he had learned from the Earth Spirit sect was specially made for people who practiced the laws of strength. Once he used the battle skill to strengthen himself, the tough body of the people who practiced the laws of strength would reach an unimaginable level once again. He could basically be described as a humanoid weapon. There were very few people who were his opponent at the same level of cultivation, and he could even kill people who were at a higher level of cultivation. Of course, that was under the premise that he did not come across other similarly terrifying prodigies. I've underestimated the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. He's much more powerful than I had anticipated, Wainer Yin said sternly. Wainer Yin was stern. After this clash, he could tell that he was still slightly weaker than the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. In the distance, the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xiando, also hovered in the air as he watched the two of them fight. He was secretly amazed as well. Weineryin and Jianshun are both quite powerful. Most importantly, the laws they comprehend are very powerful. No wonder Weineryin could become a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. It's all because he has comprehended the laws of strength. But right now, Weineryin is still a little weaker than Jianshun. Weineryin's comprehension of laws is only at early Overgod, while Jianshun's comprehension has probably reached mid-Overgod. However, Jianshun's cultivation seems to be rather weak. He hasn't reached a balance with his comprehension of laws at all. He's probably only a god. At the same time, figures flickered in the distance. The ancestors of the powerful clans all left the provincial city and hurried over as quickly as they could. They wanted to personally witness the battle between the two overgods. They did not dare to stand as close as Xiando. Instead, they stood extremely far away, in a position they believed to be safe enough. They could not approach the battle at all. Bestow upon me power. Suddenly, Weineryin bellowed out at the sky. His body actually began to swell at a visible rate. In the blink of an eye, his body, which was less than 2 meters tall, grew into a 10-meter-tall giant. Moreover, as his body swelled, the clothes on his body grew as well. Even though he was wrapped in a robe, it was still unable to hide Weineryan's incomparably sturdy and burly body. After transforming, all of Weineryan's exposed skin became bronze. It was filled with a sense of great power, making him seem like a golden Arhut. 5-finger suppression. Weineryin bellowed out. The 5 fingers on his right hand seemed to have become 5 mountains, crushing towards Jianshun with overwhelming power. Wherever the fingers passed by, space would ripple. A chilling light flickered through Jianshun's eyes. He wielded sword chi as he directly charged towards Weineryan's mountainous fingers. Boom! With a great boom, one of Weineryan's fingers was severed by Jianshun's sword chi. At this moment, Jianshun was surrounded by Weineryan's other 4 fingers. After severing one of Weineryan's fingers, the sword chi in his hand collapsed as well. Weineryan was emotionless. He did not feel any pain at all. The other 4 fingers directly pressed towards Jianshun with great power. Every single one of the 4 fingers had become extremely thick, like 4 huge beads that guarded the surroundings, sealing off all of Jianshun's paths of retreat. Daluo sword. Jianshun formed a seal with his hand, and immediately, a strand of golden sword chi condensed above his head. With a flash, the golden sword chi shot towards the 4 fingers with lightning speed. Boom, 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 boom. Immediately, for deafening booms rang out. The golden sword chi was extremely powerful, destroying Weineryan's other 4 fingers like a hot knife through butter. Powerful ripples of energy permeated the surroundings, forming a storm of energy that wreaked havoc in all directions. It even reduced the sea of clouds in the sky to dust. However, the golden sword chi did not disperse after destroying Weineryan's 4 fingers. Instead, it continued towards Weineryan as a golden streak of light under Jianshun's control. It moved extremely quickly. Weineryan's face was rather pale. His right hand's fingers had completely drooped down, only connected by a layer of flesh. He was powerless to move them. Even after transforming, his body was extremely tough, and his fingers were unbelievably tough. However, he was an early overgod after all, and Jianshun's Daluo sword was extraordinarily powerful as well. As a result, he was naturally unable to block it. Weineryan clenched his left hand into a fist and directly punched out, receiving the incoming sword chi. After destroying Weineryan's 4 fingers, the Daluo sword did not have much power left. It immediately collapsed under Weineryan's punch, turning into golden sword chi that scattered in all directions. However, as soon as Weineryan shattered the sword chi, another strand of golden sword chi shot over with lightning speed. It arrived before him in the blink of an eye and pierced his chest. Weineryan shuddered violently, and blood directly sprayed from his mouth with his 10-meter-tall body. His face had already paled. However, he had grasped the laws of strength after all. Not only was his physical strength astonishing, but the great power within him had also made his breakthroughs extremely powerful. Even though he was injured, it did not affect his battle prowess too much. Mountain Palm Seal, Wayner Yin growled. He raised his left hand, and a mountain immediately appeared. He grabbed the mountain and hurled it towards Jianshan viciously. As the mountain fell, it rapidly expanded, blotting out the sky in a single instance. It turned into a majestic, lofty mountain that crushed down on Jianshan with surging might. Moreover, there is a formless energy emanating from the mountain. Everything within the range of the mountain's attack would be frozen in space. Chapter 1806. This Wayner Yin does have some ability, Jianshan thought. He had seen quite a few early overgods in the Divine King's dwelling. They were all early overgods, but they were not on the same level as Wayner Yin. Wayner Yin could be described as the most powerful early overgod he had encountered so far. He was no weaker than Ling Hogong. As a matter of fact, he was even slightly more powerful. This was because Wayner Yin's battle skills all came from the Earth Spirit sect. They were of rather high quality and possessed extraordinary power. Tai sword technique. Jianshan formed a seal with his hand, and his body was immediately enveloped by a bright, white light. He had turned into a sword and fused with it, shooting into the sky as a dazzling light. From afar, it looked like a meteor had risen from the ground. It carried an indomitable momentum as it collided with the towering mountain that covered the sky above. The mountain was no ordinary mountain. Instead, it was Wayner Yin's battle skill. It was a combination of his early over-god cultivation and the laws of strength, so it possessed extremely terrifying power. Boom! Jianshan's surging sword chi directly collided with the mountain. Immediately, a visible shock wave of energy surged out, forming a circle that expanded rapidly. Jianshan was like an extremely sharp sword, directly piercing through the bottom of the mountain. He moved through the mountain, cutting through the rocks as he moved straight up. In just a short moment, he had pierced through the entire mountain, entering from the bottom before emerging from the highest point. He was like a miniature sun as he hovered in the air with dazzling light. A tiny crack suddenly appeared in the mountain that Wayner Yin had conjured with his battle skill. The appearance of the crack immediately led to a chain reaction. Afterwards, more and more cracks appeared, covering the entire mountain very soon. Boom! In the end, with a heavy sound, the entire mountain collapsed, turning into a powerful storm of energy that wreaked havoc. The remains of the mountain vanished into outer space as well. Wayner Yin's body trembled violently as blood spurted from his mouth. He became even paler. He raised his head and looked at Jianshan, who seemed to have turned himself into a sword. Shock filled his face. He had already overestimated Jianshan, but Jianshan's strength still exceeded his expectations. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is actually so powerful. His cultivation is clearly lacking, and he only possesses a slight advantage in laws. I thought that even if he won against Wayner Yin, it would not be an easy victory. But looking at it now, Wayner Yin is nowhere near the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's opponent. He has been completely suppressed by the patriarch of the Tian clan. The commander of the Royal Divine Army, Shindo, stared at Jianshan in surprise. Clearly, Jianshan's strength had exceeded his expectations as well. Moreover, he knew that Jianshan still had not used his full strength, as he had yet to use the trump card that could kill early overgods in a single instance in the Divine King's dwelling. It looks like the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has the upper hand. Wayner Yin of the Wayner clan is already heavily injured, while the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is completely unscathed apart from his sleeve being torn. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is just too powerful. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's strength is probably greater than the overgods of the 5 great provincial cities of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. No wonder the Tian Yuan family is so respected that the 5 great provincial cities have all sent important people to congratulate him. The ancestors of the powerful clans in the Dong and province discussed secretly. They sighed in amazement as they looked at Jianshun in admiration and fear. A few days ago, an overgod fought with Master Chanlong outside the provincial city. Don't tell me that person is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? Suddenly, a spectating god said softly. When his words fell into the ears of the people present, it immediately caused everyone present to be stunned. Soon after, everyone's expression changed. Master Chanlong was a late overgod, and he was a formations master. He possessed extremely great mastery over formations, causing many overgods to fear him very much. As a result, Master Chanlong was extremely renowned. If the mysterious expert who fought Master Chanlong outside the royal court really was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, the patriarch would be far too terrifying. At that moment, everyone's gazes gathered on the figure that was several times smaller than an ant in the air. They all began to wonder what was going on. As for Wainer Yin, no one paid any attention to him at that moment. Suddenly, Jianshun shot down from the sky with lightning speed. He directly shot towards Wainer Yin as a streak of light. Wainer Yin's 10-meter-tall body hovered in the air as he became extremely stern. Powerful laws of strength gathered in his left hand as he threw a punch at Jianshun as hard as he could. His punch caused the space to ripple. Pure and powerful power bombarded the space, seeming to disperse the source energy in the space. The power of this punch was extremely strong. However, Jianshun was using the Tai sword technique right now. It was far more powerful than when he attacked normally. Boom! This time, Wainer Yan's fist was directly blown to pieces. Not only did his left fist vanish before the powerful sword Qi, but even his entire left arm, starting from his wrist, rapidly vanished, turning into a pile of flesh and bone that fell from the sky. It extended all the way to his arm. Wainer Yin could not help but grunt from the intense pain. His entire left arm had vanished. Even though his body had been strengthened, it was still difficult for him to endure Jianshun's attacks. He was heavily injured. Spurt, 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 spurt. Jianshun did not give Wainer Yin any time to catch his breath. He struck out next, and 4 strands of powerful sword Qi pierced Wainer Yan's body, causing him to constantly vomit blood. In the end, he kicked Wainer Yan's chest viciously. Wainer Yan's body heavily smashed into the ground from the sky, causing the ground to tremble violently. Dust and dirt flew into the air, obscuring his body. Jianshun landed on the ground and slowly made his way over to the crater that Wainer Yan had created. His gaze pierced through the dust and could clearly see Wainer Yan in the crater. Wainer Yan, is this what gives you the right to act so arrogantly in my Tian Yuan family? Jianshun said emotionlessly. His cold, emotionless voice was filled with mockery. Although he had basically used his full strength in the battle against Wainer Yan, even using the Daluo sword and Tai sword technique, he was not injured at all. It cannot be denied that Wainer Yan was very powerful. There were probably very few people who were his opponent at the same cultivation level. However, he was still slightly lacking before Jianshun. Chapter 1807. Wainer Yan jumped out of the crater his body had created. At this moment, his 10-meter-tall body had returned to its normal size. His body was covered in vicious and terrifying wounds. He was covered in blood. In particular, the wounds that had penetrated his body were a shocking sight. Although Wainer Yan had been defeated, he did not seem dispirited at all. Instead, he glared at Jianshun and said coldly, "Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, don't get complacent too early. The reason why you defeated me this time is not because you're powerful. It's just because your comprehension of laws is greater than mine. If we were at the same level of cultivation, who knows who would emerge victorious?" After a pause, Wainer Yin continued, "However, I'm not a sore loser. You've won this time, so our Wainer clan will not interfere with the matters of the Dawn province. We'll let your Tian Yuan family rule over it for now. Once my laws of strength reach mid-overgod, I'll fight you again. At that time, I'd like to see whether you can defeat me or not." With that, Wainer Yin turned into a blur and left. He flew in the direction of the provincial capital. With Wainer Yan's departure, The ancestors of the powerful clans in the surroundings all sighed. Many of them were excited. The battle between two overgods had unfolded before them, just like that. Although the battle had not been very long, they had benefited greatly from the battle between Jianshan and Wayner. Most importantly, all of them had clearly witnessed the strength of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan through the battle. I never thought that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan would be such a powerful overgod. Huoluji was far too reckless. He almost caused the destruction of our whole family. Thought the strongest expert of the whole family. At the same time, he felt fortunate that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan did not pursue the matter any further. Otherwise, their family would probably be in trouble as well. Huoluji is still locked up in the Tian Yuan family. Whatever, I won't plead for him. Let the heavens decide whether he lives or dies. I just hope that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan won't vent his anger on our whole family because of Huoluji. At the same time, the late celestial god from the Dong family shared the same thoughts as the late celestial god from the Hua family. He hated the late celestial god from the Dong family for provoking the Tian Yuan family. I never thought that Brother Jianshan would possess such mastery over the laws of the sword. What an eye-opener! Xiando flew over and clasped his fist towards Jianshan with a smile. Commander Xian, you flatter me. Compared to Commander Xian, my sword principle Law Realm is nothing. Jianshan cupped his fist and replied politely. Xiando chuckled. After chatting with Jianshan for a while, he said sternly, "Another overgod has appeared in the Dong province. I need to report this to His Majesty immediately. Brother Jianshan, I, Xiando, will be taking my leave first today. If I have the time in the future, I will visit again. Take care, Commander Xian. My Tian Yuan family welcomes Commander Xian at any time," Jianshan said. "Oh, right. Brother Jianshan, you can't underestimate Wayner. Although he's not Brother Jianshan's opponent in terms of strength, the Earth Spirit sect behind him is extraordinary. The sect is so powerful that it's not something our divine kingdom of Pingtian can fend off. Brother Jianshan, you must be careful," Xiando said again. He was extremely stern. He feared the Earth Spirit sect to the extreme. Jianshan nodded to express his understanding. Afterwards, with a single movement, Xiando shot off into the distance extremely quickly, leaving behind a blur. He vanished into the horizon in a single instance. As soon as Xiando left, the impatient heavenly gods of the surrounding clans finally found an opportunity to speak. They all spoke respectfully and respectfully. In the provincial city of the Dong province, Jianshan stood before the ruined discussion hall in the Tianyuan family. Behind him, Mo Ling and Ando Fu stood there quietly. Respect would appear in their gazes towards Jianshan from time to time. Now, Mo Ling could no longer refer to Jianshan as a brother like before. Even though Jianshan treated him the same as before, he had placed himself in an even lower position. This was because the concept of the strong being respected had become deeply rooted in his heart. It was difficult for him to change it. Behind him were the ancestors of the powerful clans in the Dong province. They did not return to their clans. Instead, they returned to the Tianyuan family with Jianshan. At this moment, all of them remained silent as they looked at the conference hall that had turned into ruins. "Jianshan, are you fine?" Shangwan Mu walked over from afar. She looked at Jianshan, whose right sleeve had been destroyed, and asked in concern. Due to her strength, she did not watch the battle. Jianshan finally smiled warmly as he watched Shangwan Mu walk over slowly. He shook his head gently and said, "I'm fine." Afterwards, he turned to Mo Ling and Ando Fu and said, "Brother Mo Ling, Ando Fu, the ruined discussion hall needs to be rebuilt as soon as possible. I'll be troubling the two of you with this." "Yes, Patriarch," Ando Fu and Mo Ling said in unison. "Patriarch, we're willing to contribute our meager strength to build the discussion hall together," the ancestors of the powerful clans said to express their loyalty. Jianshan naturally turned down this matter. He naturally did not need others to build his own discussion hall. The Dong province recovered its former peace. It was just as bustling and prosperous as before. People from various places entered and exited the provincial city every day. On the surface, everything seemed the same as before. However, the situation in the Dong and province had changed drastically. The entire provincial city was no longer ruled by powerful clans like before. Instead, it had completely become the territory of the Tianyuan family. It was the territory of the Tianyuan family. The powerful clans of the Dong and province all obeyed the various orders of the Tianyuan clan. As for the Wainer clan, they maintained an extremely low profile, even though they had gained an overgod. Even though their status in the Dong and province was not as great as the Tianyuan family, they still possessed an extremely great status as an overgod clan. They were only second to the Tianyuan family, so no one dared to provoke them. Chapter 1808. At this moment, Wainer Yin sat cross-legged in a secret room of the Wainer clan, recovering from his wounds. Although he had already consumed the sacred healing medicine, the recovery of his injuries was extremely slow. This was because every single wound on his body possessed the power of the laws of the sword. If he did not purge the power of the laws of the sword, he would not be able to heal at all. Moreover, his cultivation of the laws of strength had allowed his body to become extremely tough. With the amplification from battle skills, he could even reach an unbelievable level, where he could rival Jinshin's chaotic body. However, the rate at which his body recovered was nowhere near as great as the chaotic body. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, I heard that you were only a god before the divine King Duanmu's dwelling opened. In just a few short years, you've become an overgod. Your comprehension of the laws of the sword has even surpassed my comprehension of the laws of strength, reaching mid-overgod. It looks like you must have obtained some fortuitous encounters in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling, where you must have purposefully hidden your strength. You broke through to overgod a very long time ago, thought Wainer Yin. He did not feel any envy towards Jinshin's fortuitous encounters. However, even if you did obtain some fortuitous encounters in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling, allowing your cultivation to skyrocket, he's still a dead divine king in the end. However, I, Wainer Yin, have also obtained my own fortuitous encounter. My encounter is joining the Earth Spirit sect. Wainer Yin slowly opened his eyes in the secret room. He lowered his head to look at the vicious wounds on his body, and his lips curled into a faint smile. He was filled with great confidence and pride as he murmured, "Not only have I joined the Earth Spirit sect and become a protector, but my master is a divine king as well. Even though my master isn't as famous as Duanmu Divine King, nor is he as powerful as Duanmu Divine King, my master is a living divine king. A living divine king is definitely more useful than a dead divine king. With master's guidance and nurturing, the growth of my strength can be described as advancing by leaps and bounds. Moreover, apart from my master, my supreme grandmaster will give me some guidance from time to time. In terms of fortuitous encounters, Jinshin, how can the fortuitous encounters you obtain from Duanmu Divine King's dwelling compare to mine? Moreover, I, Wainer Yin, have reached mid-god in just 35,000 years without the guidance of an expert. Now that I have my master's personal guidance and the resources of the Earth Spirit sect, my rate of cultivation will only be faster than before. Moreover, my laws of strength have already touched the boundary of mid-overgod. In less than 500 years, I'll be able to reach mid-overgod in a single stroke. In just 45,000 years, I've reached mid-overgod. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, may I ask how long you've taken? Right now, your cultivation surpasses mine, but I wonder if you'll still be able to surpass me in the future. Wainer Yin sneered. He was filled with anticipation toward a certain day in 500 years. This was because he firmly believed that if his laws of strength reached mid-overgod, he would be the only one who would emerge victorious. A few days later, the discussion hall in the Tianyuan family had been rebuilt. At this moment, Jinshin listened to Mo Ling and Ando Fu's reports in the discussion hall. Patriarch, the Hua family and the Dong family have both offered up 2/3 of their territory. Aside from them, the other powerful clans in the provincial city have all offered up a portion of their territory as well. Now, our Tianyuan family has already controlled 50% of the territory in the provincial city. All the fees that outsiders pay to enter the city belong to our Tianyuan family. Combined with the income from the various shops in the provincial city, our Tianyuan family earns several 100,000 low-grade, divine crystals a day. Has the Weiner family done anything recently? Jinshin asked. The Weiner family still hasn't done anything, said Ando Fu. Jinshin sank into his thoughts as he sat on the patriarch's throne. He said, after deducting the necessary expenses of the clan, take out half of the daily income and distribute it to everyone as a reward. Give the other half to the madam. Yes, patriarch, Mo Ling and Ando Fu replied in unison. Jinshin continued to look below. Aside from Mo Ling and Ando Fu, there were 4 other gods in the hall. The 4 gods all belong to the Nanyan clan. Nanyan Tong, how much do you know about the Earth Spirit sect and the Heavenly Moon Empire? Jinshin asked. Now that the Nanyan clan had already submitted to the Tianyuan family, they all belonged to the Tianyuan family. Nanyan Tong tidied up his attire and stood up politely. He bowed and said, Patriarch, the Heavenly Moon Empire is one of the 6 ancient empires of the southern region of the Cloud Plain. The strength of every single one of the 6 ancient empires is unfathomable, far beyond what we can imagine. Although he doesn't know the exact strength of the empires, our divine kingdom of Pingtian is like an ant compared to the 6 ancient empires. Destroying the divine kingdom of Pingtian is as easy as flicking a finger. The Heavenly Moon Empire is the one closest to our divine kingdom of Pingtian. The Heavenly Moon Empire has a total of 3 peak organizations. One of them is the Imperial family, which controls the entire empire. The other 2 organizations are the 2 great sects of the Heavenly Moon Empire. These 2 sects are extremely powerful as well. They possess extremely great statuses in the Heavenly Moon Empire. It's rumored that even the Imperial family of the Heavenly Moon Empire has to show respect to these 2 sections. The Earth Spirit sect is one of these 2 sections. Are there primordial realm experts in the Heavenly Moon Empire? Are there primordial realm experts in the Earth Spirit sect as well? And you mentioned earlier that the Heavenly Moon Empire is one of the 6 empires of the southern region of the Cloud Plain. Aside from the southern region, how many other regions are there? Jinshin asked. Although he had been on the Cloud Plain for a few years now, his understanding of the Cloud Plain was just too limited. Nanyan Tong could not help but become slightly surprised when he heard Jinshin's question. Although the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan was powerful, he was just too ignorant and inexperienced. However, Nanyan Tong continued to explain politely, Patriarch, I don't know whether the Heavenly Moon Empire and the Earth Spirit sect have primordial realm experts. As for the Cloud Plain is split into 5 regions, which are the eastern region of Zaheo, the southern region of Blood Sun, the western region of Jinjian, the northern region of Shi, and the central region of Tian's Eternity. The reason why the 5 regions of the Cloud Plain are named like that is because there's an unshakable eternal empire in each region. They're the eternal Zaheo Empire in the eastern region, the eternal Blood Sun Empire in the southern region, the eternal Jinjian Empire in the western region, and the eternal Shi Empire in the northern region. As for the central region, it's an eternal empire ruled by the Tian's Eternity. Although there are a few ancient empires like the Heavenly Moon Empire in the 4 regions, the 4 eternal empires are the true sovereigns. They are fully deserving of being the overlords of a region. As for the central region, it's said that only divine kingdoms exist there. Apart from the Tian's Eternity Empire, there are no other empires. Chapter 1809. In other words, the eternal empires that rule over the 4 regions are much more powerful than the Heavenly Moon Empire. Jinshin reclined lazily on the throne that represented the patriarch. He gently tapped the armrest with his finger as he murmured to himself. It was not until this moment that he finally had a deeper understanding of the Cloud Prefecture. Nanyan Tong nodded sternly when he heard Jinshin's murmur. He continued, "The patriarch is right. The 4 eternal empires that rule over the 4 regions are so powerful that an organization like the Heavenly Moon Empire can't compare to them at all. Moreover, I once heard an overgod mention that even if the 6 ancient empires of the southern region work together, they will not be able to shake the eternal Blood Sun Empire that reigns supreme in the southern region of our cloud plain. Ancient empires, eternal empires, murmured Jianshun. The light in his eyes flickered as he seemed to be in thought. After a while of thought, he continued, "Then what about the eternal Tian Empire of the central region?" Nan Tong immediately became filled with respect when he heard the eternal Tian Empire. Undisguised reverence filled his face as he said sternly, "The eternal Tian Empire of the central region is much more powerful than the 4 eternal empires. I don't know exactly how powerful they are. I only know that the 4 eternal empires have to lower their heads before the eternal Tian Empire. Even the 4 great empires have to lower their heads before the eternal Tian Empire." Jinshin became stern. He was shocked by the power of the eternal Tian Empire. Jinshin asked a few more questions regarding the cloud plane before dismissing Nan Tong and the others. In the blink of an eye, only Jinshin, Mo Ling, and Ando Fu remained in the majestic discussion hall. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at Jinshin, who reclined on the patriarch's throne. They hesitated as if they wanted to say something. "If there's anything you want to say, just say it," Jinshin said. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other with that. Afterwards, Mo Ling clasped his fist at Jinshin. "Patriarch, the entire Dong and province is now completely under our Tianyuan family's control. Without any exaggeration, the entire province has become our Tianyuan family's territory. However, our Tianyuan family only possesses 40% of the assets in the city. Do you want to continue expanding our Tianyuan family's businesses in the city?" Jinshin asked. Mo Ling said, "If a clan wants to become powerful, they need cultivation resources. Right now, our Tianyuan family earns several 100,000 divine crystals a single day. However, half of these divine crystals are the entrance fee to the city. The rest is the income from our businesses in the county city. Our businesses are estimated to earn 300,000 to 400,000 low-grade divine crystals. Then let's look at the other 5 provincial cities of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. The overgod clans basically control 80% of the businesses in the provincial cities. The other 2% are controlled by the various clans in the city. Our Tianyuan family is the one that controls the least amount of businesses out of the 6 provincial cities in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. If we increase our businesses in the provincial city a little, we'll be able to bring our Tianyuan family a considerable amount of benefits every single day." Jian Chun shook his head gently. "Even if we can earn several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals a day, it's only a few dozen high-grade divine crystals in total. There's no need to force the other clans in the provincial city into a corner for so little divine crystals. Moreover, don't forget that there's the Wainer clan aside from our Tianyuan family in the Dawn province." Jianshan paused before continuing. "Most importantly, the 2 of you still don't truly understand why I founded the Tianyuan family. I only founded the clan to provide a place for my good friends and family. It's not for ruling." Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other. They had probably never thought Jianshan would answer them like that. After leaving the discussion hall, Jianshan directly made his way to the forbidden grounds in the back courtyard. This was because all the people who had come to the Saints' world with him from the Tianyuan continent were cultivating there. "Yin'er, how many times have I told you? You can't use the sword like that. The speed of your stab is too slow. Remember, no matter if it's the speed of your stab or the speed of your stab, you must be as swift as lightning. Your sword technique lacks a strand of sharpness, and it similarly lacks a strand of decisiveness to kill." Just as Jianshan made his way to the forbidden grounds in the back courtyard, he heard a familiar voice. He could not help but look over. The white-clothed Shiyu held a tree branch in her hand as she earnestly taught the black-face sword technique. And Mo Yin had no idea whether it was because she did not put any effort into learning or because she was not suited for the sword. Even though her cultivation had reached the peak of sainthood, she was still a beginner when it came to using the sword. Jianshun subconsciously paused before slowly making his way over to Shi Yu and Mo Yin. Patriarch Jianshun, why have you come? Mo Yin had not put any effort into learning the sword, so she discovered Jianshun as soon as possible. She immediately beamed with joy. When Shi Yu heard Mo Yin call out Patriarch Jianshun, her body immediately stiffened. She slowly put down the branch in her hand and looked at Jianshun, who was making his way over. Her expression immediately became rather mixed. She clasped her fist at Jianshun. Shi Yu greets the patriarch. At this moment, Shi Yu was filled with mixed feelings. In the past, she had still looked down on Jianshun, but now, Jianshun had become the patriarch of the clan. Even the ancestor of the Mo clan, Mo Ling, was Jianshun's subordinate. Patriarch Jianshun, why do you have time to come here? Mo Yin was not as respectful towards Jianshun as Shi Yu. She ran over to Jianshun and giggled. Afterwards, she glanced at Jianshun with her large, strange eyes before smiling mysteriously. She stood on her tiptoes and whispered into Jianshun's ear, Patriarch Jianshun, I can already guess why you've come this time. You must have come to see Sister Shi Yu, right? Actually, you've liked Sister Shi Yu a long time ago. Don't think I don't know. Let me tell you a secret. Sister Shi Yu actually likes you as well. She's just too embarrassed to say it. Although Mo Yin spoke very softly, she was a guided expert after all. Even if Mo Yin wanted to communicate with Jianshun secretly, she would not be able to hide it from Shi Yu, let alone speaking softly. As a result, Shi Yu heard everything that Mo Yin had said to Jianshun clearly. Shi Yu's alluring face immediately reddened. She was both furious and embarrassed. She glared at Mo Yin furiously and scolded. Sister Mo Yin, what are you saying? Don't speak nonsense. Jianshun was amused by how serious Mo Yin was. He knocked Mo Yin's forehead and smiled. Mo Yin, you can't say things like that in the future, or I'll confine you in the clan and forbid you from going out to play. Chapter 1810. Mo Yin immediately became unhappy. She pouted and said, Humph, if you don't want to tell me, then don't tell me. I'm helping you out of the kindness of my heart. Yet not only do you not appreciate my kindness, you even want to confine me. You really don't know how to appreciate kindness. Mo Yin was no longer in the mood to refine her sword. She stowed her sword away and left. Jianshun shook his head helplessly as he watched Mo Yin leave. Afterwards, he looked at Shi Yu, and his gaze gradually deepened. He said, Miss Shi Yu, you seem to have comprehended the laws of the sword as well. Patriarch, I have indeed comprehended the laws of the sword. Shi Yu bowed slightly and answered honestly. Jianshun's status was no longer the same as before, so she seemed rather restrained before Jianshun. However, perhaps because of what Mo Yin had said, Shi Yu's gaze towards Jianshun became rather evasive. Some of the redness remained on her face, having yet to recede completely. Show me your comprehension of the laws of the sword. Jianshun asked calmly, as if he did not see the redness on Shi Yu's face at all. She was surprised. Afterwards, she seemed to realize that Jianshun wanted to personally guide her. She could not help but reveal a strange light in her eyes. Jianshun's laws of the sword had already reached the level of an overgod, and in Shi Yu's eyes, overgods were unreachable existences. If she could receive the personal guidance of an overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, it would definitely be of great help to her cultivation of the laws of the sword. She might even be able to break through to God in a single stroke. Shi Yu immediately became rather excited, but she sucked in a deep breath soon afterwards and forced herself to calm down. Suddenly, a sharp sword chi radiated from Shi Yu. A dazzling sword appeared in Shi Yu's hand, and as it pulsed with light, she swung it as hard as she could towards a fake mountain. The strike contained Shi Yu's greatest comprehension of the laws of the sword. Through the might of her strike, she had presented her comprehension of the laws of the sword to Jianshun. Boom! Amidst the rumbling, the fake mountain in front of them remained unscathed after receiving Shi Yu's full-powered strike. Currently, the entire Tianyuan family was protected by a defensive formation. Although the formation was unable to block attacks from over-gods, it was not something that Shiyu, a late deity, could destroy. A light flashed through Jinshin's eyes. Just one attack from Shiyu had allowed Jinshin to see the flaws in her comprehension of the laws of the sword. Shiyu looked carefully. Jinshin bellowed and formed a sword with his finger. A powerful sword light shot out from his fingertip and slashed towards Shiyu's head. As Jinshin stabbed forward, a sky-surging sword energy spread out. Shiyu, who was the one who was struck by the sword energy, sensed it the most intensely. In Shiyu's eyes, she seemed to be in an ocean filled with sword chi. She was surrounded by dense, endless strands of sword chi. Every single strand of sword chi seemed to represent a law of the world. The countless strands of sword chi seemed to have condensed into a single entity, forming a way of the world. In the beginning, Shiyu was surprised, but she understood very soon. This was Jinshin passing on the laws to her. He was using this method to present his comprehension of the laws of the sword to her in the simplest and most direct way possible. She could not help but close her eyes. Jinshin's teachings could no longer be understood with the naked eye. Instead, she had to comprehend them with her heart. If she could comprehend the mysteries within, it was extremely likely for her to directly break through to God. If she could not comprehend the mysteries within, Jinshin's teachings would not be effective at all. It would be a waste of effort. The comprehension of the laws of the world was not like cultivation. All one needed to do was consume some heavenly resources, and the energy within them would increase their cultivation. However, there were no shortcuts to comprehending the laws of the world. She had to comprehend everything herself. Even if she consumed heavenly resources like the comprehension tea tree, she would still need to comprehend the mysteries within. She would not be able to directly increase her cultivation. The sword chi on Jinshin's fingertip stopped before Shiyu's forehead. Afterwards, the sword chi slowly dispersed. Jinshin pulled back his hand and stared at Shiyu. After an incense stick's worth of time, Shiyu finally opened her eyes. There was a trace of understanding in her eyes. "Do you understand now?" At the same time, Jinshin's voice rang out. Shiyu looked over and saw Jinshin standing beside a nearby pond with his back towards her. The gentle breeze caused Jinshin's hair to sway gently. His white robes fluttered as well, making him seem rather otherworldly. Shiyu's eyes suddenly narrowed as she stared at Jinshin's back. She stared at Jinshin without blinking at all. In a trance, she seemed to sense an indomitable presence from his back. "I understand a little, but there are still many things I don't understand," Shiyu said softly as her gaze became mixed. Jinshin slowly turned around and looked at Shiyu in gratification. He said, "Since you can understand a little, it means that your ability to comprehend is extremely great. My guidance to you hasn't gone to waste." Suddenly, Jinshin extended a finger towards the sky, and a huge streak of light shot out from the tip of his finger, stabbing into the sky. An even more powerful sword intent radiated from him, enveloping the entire Tianyuan family in a single instance. However, the sword chi did not stop there. Instead, it expanded towards the provincial city with lightning speed. In the end, it enveloped the entire city, causing everyone in the city to be shocked. What powerful sword intent! It's the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. What is he doing? This is definitely the comprehension of laws at the level of an overgod. It's an overgod of the Tianyuan family. Whether it was the ancestors of the powerful clans or the outsiders in the provincial city, they all looked in the direction of the Tianyuan family in shock. Mo Ling and Ando Fu hurried over as quickly as they could from the Tianyuan family. They saw Jinshin standing beside a pond from afar as he pointed at the sky. Shock filled their faces as well. Jinshin had already closed his eyes. He used all his strength to connect with the laws of the sword in the surroundings. He remained in that posture for 10 whole minutes before suddenly opening his eyes. At that moment, his pupils had lost their black color. His eyes had become a dazzling silver white. His white eyes and white pupils were as bright as 2 lamps. At this moment, Jinshin slowly swept his finger through the air. As his finger fell, the defensive formations on the fake mountain nearby immediately collapsed. A huge slash gradually appeared on the fake mountain. As Jinshin's finger fell, the slash on the fake mountain grew longer and longer. It flickered with bright light, and it seemed to possess a mysterious power. After carving the slash, a sliver of exhaustion appeared on Jinshin's face. It was as if carving the slash on the fake mountain had taken him a lot of effort. It was not easy at all. This slash contains my comprehension of the laws of the sword. How long it will take for you to become an overgod will depend on your comprehension ability, Jinshin said to Yu Yu. Afterwards, he left the place step by step in exhaustion. He directly made his way to the forbidden grounds in the back courtyard. Shi stared at Jinshin's exhausted figure. She was greatly moved. Her lips trembled slightly, as if she wanted to ask Jinshin why he was helping her like this. However, in the end, she held herself back. She understood that even many masters and disciples did not receive such treatment when passing on the laws of the sword like this. This was because passing on the laws of the sword like this was just too draining. Even if some masters and disciples passed on the laws of the sword like this, the master would only pass on a portion of it. However, Jinshin seemed to have completely engraved his comprehension of the laws of the sword. If he could comprehend all the mysteries within the slash, he would directly become an overgod. Chapter 1811. Jinshin had left behind his comprehension of the laws of the sword. Naturally, Mo Ling and Ando Fu saw this as well. Both of them had their own thoughts. Mo Ling's current feelings could only be described as excitement, while Ando Fu was filled with envy and jealousy. He secretly sighed inside. Why did his Ando clan not have a woman as outstanding as Shiyu? If Shui Yuer can marry the patriarch, it'll be a joyous matter, Mo Ling thought. He was filled with eagerness. Although he already knew that Jinshin was married, having multiple wives was very common in the Saint world. As a matter of fact, there were quite a few instances of polygamy in the Saint world. Jinshin, Shangguan Houston, Xiao Jin, Xiao Ling, the White Tiger, Newbies, Ruijin, Honglian, Black Fish, Xiongzhong, and the other people from the world of Forsaken Saints had all gathered together in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan family. All right, that's all I know about the situation in the Saints world. From today onwards, you can cultivate peacefully in the Tianyuan family. This clan was established for you in the first place. Jinshin sat on the ground with everyone and told them everything he knew about the Saints world without holding back at all. Since they had come to this world, they needed to gain a certain understanding of this world. Jinshin, do you know anything about our dragon and phoenix clans? Ruijin asked. His eyes were filled with eagerness. The three of them had done everything they could to assist Jinshin and protect Jinshin back on the Tianyuan continent so that they could find their clansmen. This was because they had encountered the winged tiger from ancient times in the lower world. The winged tiger had told them that they needed to follow Jinshin if they wanted to find their clansmen. Jinshin was their only hope of reuniting with their clansmen. It was exactly because of this that the three of them had treated Jinshin's life as more important than themselves back on the Tianyuan continent. Senior Ruijin, don't worry. Although I haven't heard anything about the dragons and phoenixes, please believe me. I, Jinshin, will do my best to help you find your people. Jinshin promised Ruijin and the other two. Honglian, who was wearing a fiery red dress and had crimson eyes, looked gloomy. She sighed and said, Ruijin, don't be too optimistic about the news about our clansmen. When our clansmen came to the higher world with the beast god, the strongest was only the holy emperor. With such puny strength, it'll be difficult for them to survive in the saints' world. So much time has already passed. I wonder if our clansmen are still around. I believe they're still around because they came to the higher world with the winged tiger, Jinshin said with certainty. This was because he knew that the winged tiger from ancient times was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. I hope so, Honglian said softly. She had only learnt just how vast the saints' world was from Jinshin's introduction. Just the Cloud Prefecture alone could be described as boundless. Not to mention that there were a total of 49 Great Plains and 81 Great Planets in the saints' world. Big brother, Xiao Ling misses Master too. Xiao Ling's sobbing voice rang out as deep yearning filled her eyes. Jianchen immediately comforted her. After chatting with everyone for a while longer, they all dispersed. Aside from Xiao Ling and Xiao Ling, who ran out impatiently, everyone else entered seclusion. Jianchen entered a secret room as well. Jianchen currently sat in the center of the gloomy room. He held a space ring in his hand. Jianchen studied the space ring and murmured, "It's time to see what's left in there." The space ring was the one that Fairy Hao Yue had removed from the finger of the Divine King. When he parted with the Fairy Hao Yue, the Fairy Hao Yue had left the space ring to Jianchen. As soon as the senses of Jianchen's soul entered the space ring, he was shocked by the vastness of the space inside. How is this a space ring? The space inside was so large that it could be treated as a miniature world. Jianchen had no doubt that the space ring was enough to hold the entire Tian Yuan continent. Jianchen expanded the senses of his soul and enveloped the entire space. In this space ring, he found a large amount of materials, natural treasures, and various ancient scrolls. He even found some jade bottles that contained pills, but more than half of them were already empty. Only the number of divine crystals was extremely low. Jianchen knew that Fairy Hao Yue had basically used up all the divine crystals and various pills that could help her when she refined her body, so he was not surprised by the scarcity of divine crystals at all. Jianchen took out all the ancient scrolls first. After tidying them up, he discovered that the ancient scrolls contained some cultivation methods, various sword techniques, cultivation notes, and personal notes left behind by the Divine King from the Divine King. These cultivation methods and battle skills did not belong to the Divine King. Instead, they had been slowly collected by the Divine King over the course of his life. There were even 2 cultivation methods that the Divine King had created himself. Unfortunately, they could only be cultivated up to Overgod, so they were clearly incomplete. There were over a dozen battle skills as well, and all of them were of extremely high grades. They would even be of great help to the Divine King. There were various battle skills that were suitable for various laws, but there were no sword techniques. Jianchen then looked at the notes left behind by the Divine King. There were a total of 3 scrolls. One of them was about the laws of space, while the other 2 were about the laws of the sword. Jianchen did not pay any attention to the notes on the laws of space because they were of no use to him right now. Instead, he looked at the notes on the laws of the sword. Just a single glance was enough to make him overjoyed. He immediately stowed them away like they were treasures. Fantastic! With these 2 scrolls, I won't be far from breaking through to the partial achievement of sword spirit. Jianchen was extremely excited. The Divine King's comprehension of the laws of the sword was not much greater than his, unlike the Nirvanic Immortal Exalt. As a result, the notes left behind by the Divine King just happened to be useful to him. 10,000-year God origin pills, soul recovery pills. Afterwards, Jianchen looked at the jade bottles, and he immediately became excited. There were many types of pills, many of which Jianchen had never heard of before. However, there just happened to be something that interested him. There were a total of 5 bottles of 10,000-year God origin pills. There were exactly 10 pills in each bottle, so there were 50 pills in total. There were a total of 3 bottles of soul recovery pills. There were 10 pills in each bottle, so there were 30 pills in total. There are actually 30 soul recovery pills here. At that moment, Jianchen's excitement had reached its limit. With the soul recovery pills, he did not need to worry so much when he used the profound sword chi. However, he understood that as his cultivation increased and his soul strengthened, his need for soul recovery pills would multiply as well. A single soul recovery pill was enough to completely recover the power of an early Overgod soul. If he reached mid-Overgod, he would probably need 2, 3, or even 4 soul recovery pills. Chapter 1812. Aside from the 10,000-year God origin pill and soul recovery pill, there were 4 other pills that Jianchen had never seen before, so he did not know what they were used for. There were over 20 empty bottles as well. From the marks, the bottles had clearly been opened recently, and the pills inside had probably been consumed by Fairy Hao Yue. There were many heavenly resources of various kinds. The most eye-catching item was a 3-meter-long golden ginseng. What a huge ginseng! It's the size of a small tree. Moreover, the ginseng is completely golden, as if it's made of gold. You can tell with a single glance that it's extremely valuable. Jianshan could not help but sigh in amazement. He had seen many ginseng on the Tianyuan continent, but he had never seen such a huge ginseng before him. Aside from the golden ginseng, there were even more heavenly resources and medicinal ingredients. They were all things that Jianshan could not name. However, one thing was certain, and that was that none of the heavenly resources were ordinary. Violet scale rock. Master, there's violet scale rock here. At this moment, the sword spirit's voices rang out in Jianshan's head. Violet scale rock? What's that? Jianshan was stunned as he instinctively looked around. Master, violet scale rock is a material for forging weapons. It's already at the 9th grade of the immortal tier. It's one of the materials that Master needs to forge the azulate swords. Master, the violet scale rock is 15 kilometers in front of you, Ziying said to Jianshan. Jianshan immediately extended the senses of his soul. As expected, he discovered a huge rock that was 3 meters wide at the location Ziying had mentioned. The stone was purple in color, and there were strange patterns on it. They looked like scales. This is violet scale rock. Jianshan studied the 3-meter-wide rock as he gently tapped it with his hand out of curiosity. He knew just how tough the rock was from just touching it. Even if he struck it with his full strength, he probably would not be able to leave a mark on it. As expected of a 9th grade, immortal grade material, Jianshan exclaimed, Master, there's a profound thunder rock 20 li west of you. It's also a 9th grade, immortal grade refining material. That's great. I didn't expect to find 2 refining materials at once. Qing Suo said excitedly. Jianshan immediately found the Black Thunder Rock. The Black Thunder Rock was similar to the Purple Scale Rock. It was a type of, or with lightning flashing on its surface. Occasionally, there would even be electric snakes shooting out. At the same time, the lightning that shot out from the rock was extremely aggressive. Even Saint Emperors would basically die if they came in contact with it. It would be very difficult for them to survive. If I throw this rock on the Tianyuan continent, who would dare touch it? Jianshan could not help but mutter inside as he looked at the rock. Ziying, Qing Suo, look around more carefully. See if there are any materials here that can be used to forge the twin swords. Jianshan said to the sword spirits. There is a large pile of materials that Jianshan could not identify in the Divine King's space ring. Only the sword spirits knew which ones could be used to forge the swords. Yeah, let's look around more carefully. Qing Suo replied before beginning to search seriously again. However, in the end, they failed to find a third material that could be used to forge the twin swords. There are quite a few materials that could be used to forge the swords, or even a lot of them. However, they did not meet the requirements of quality, so they could only give up. It's a pleasant surprise to find 2 of them. I'll take my time collecting the remaining materials, Jianshan said in satisfaction before stowing the space ring away. Afterward, Jianshan called Mo Ling over. He gave a portion of the cultivation methods and battle skills he had obtained from the Divine King's space ring to Mo Ling so that the Tianyuan family could pass down their cultivation methods. Once someone made great contributions to the clan, they could obtain the cultivation methods of these cultivation methods through their contributions. Jianshan placed the better ones on a stone table in the Forbidden Grounds so that the people who had come with him from the Tianyuan continent could choose whatever they wanted once they emerged from seclusion. Afterward, Jianshan warned Mo Ling and Ando Fu about the future development of the Tianyuan family before leaving the 2 of them to manage the clan. He entered seclusion himself. Jianshan sat in the secret room. Beside him lay the huge, golden ginseng he had found in the Divine King's space ring. Not only had he found 50 10,000-year god origin pills in the Divine King's space ring, but he had also found a large number of heavenly resources, including the ginseng. Moreover, these heavenly resources had all been collected by the Divine King. They were all of extremely high quality, incomparable to the heavenly resources he had obtained in the Xianhuang microcosm. As a result, he wanted to try using these heavenly resources and the 50 10,000-year god origin pills to see if he could reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body. The medicinal effects of the golden ginseng might be very violent and powerful, but my chaotic body has already reached the 10th layer, so enduring the medicinal effects is naturally a piece of cake. Jianshun murmured before directly plucking off a strand of the ginseng and shoving it into his mouth. Immediately, droplets of golden liquid flowed out from the corner of his mouth with boundless energy. As the boundless energy radiated from the golden liquid, the entire secret room became abnormally rich in energy. The only flaw was that the energy contained a tremendous amount of energy. It had an extremely powerful, violent energy. Many natural treasures had a strong and tyrannical medicinal effect. Very few people would consume them directly. Almost all of them were used to refine pills. Through the combination of ingredients, the fierceness of the medicinal effect would be erased, causing the medicinal effect to become mild. Probably only cultivators with bodies as tough as Jianshun's would be able to swallow heavenly resources without any fear. Jianshun wiped the corner of his mouth and swallowed all the liquid. He did not waste a single drop. As the strands entered his stomach, Jianshun's body seemed to explode like a barrel of gunpowder. Violent and vicious energy rampaged through his body, violently attacking Jianshun's flesh, blood, and organs. Originally, Jianshun believed that he could easily endure the violent medicinal effects of the ginseng with the strength of his 10th layer chaotic body, but only now did he suddenly realize that he had underestimated the ginseng. The medicinal effects of the ginseng were extremely violent, something that Jianshun had never seen before. Jianshun's body trembled violently as he frowned. The intense pain caused his face to become rather pale. What violent medicinal effects, Jianshun thought. He gritted his teeth and began to refine the ginseng as hard as he could. It was extremely difficult for Jianshun to refine the medicinal effects of the strand of root. With his abilities, it took him an entire month to refine all the energy in the strand of root. Jianshun did not stop there. He plucked off a second strand of root and tossed it into his mouth without even frowning. Chapter 18:13. It took Jianshun a long time to refine the tremendous amount of energy within the golden ginseng. Every time he swallowed a root, he would need to spend quite a long time to wear away the energy and convert it into his chaotic force. After all, the tremendous energy within the golden ginseng was not as gentle as the energy within the violet cloud peaches. He could refine and absorb it almost effortlessly. Cultivation was non-existent. Jianshun completely forgot about the time as he sat in the room. He devoted all of his attention to cultivation. Not far from him lay the 3-meter-long golden ginseng. However, the ginseng was only a meter long now. Jianshun had swallowed all of its roots and refined them into tremendous energy, causing the chaotic Niden in his dantian to slowly expand. Time passed quickly, and 5 years passed in the blink of an eye. The golden ginseng had already vanished from the gloomy room. Jianshun held the last bit of ginseng meat that was only the size of a fist. After sighing emotionally, he shoved the last bit of ginseng meat into his mouth without any hesitation at all. Afterwards, he closed his eyes and began to refine and absorb the energy. As the last bit of ginseng meat entered Jianshun's stomach, the 3-meter-long ginseng was finally eaten by Jianshun after 5 whole years of Jianshun's time. The energy within the golden ginseng has allowed my chaotic Niden to grow from the size of a bean to the size of a pinky. After reaching the 10th layer, the amount of energy I need to continue growing has increased by several times. I wonder if the heavenly resources I obtained from the divine King Duanmu's space ring and the 52,000-year god origin pills will be enough for me to reach the 11th layer, Jianshun thought. With his current strength, early overgods were no longer a threat to him. He would not even fear mid-overgods, but he was not the opponent of late overgods. The reason why he could defeat late overgod Master Chanlong before was because Master Chanlong was a formations master. He was most skilled in using formations against opponents. Open battles were not his forte, which was why Jianshun was able to achieve a narrow victory against Master Chanlong. Although I've gained a firm foothold in the Dong and province now, there are still a few people who can pose a threat to me in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. For example, Yang Kai, who has reached late Overgod, and the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xiando. I'm not their opponent because my 10th layer chaotic force has only allowed me to become a god. If my chaotic body can take another step forward and reach the 11th layer, my cultivation will directly reach Overgod according to what the Sword Spirit said. At that time, will there still be any Overgods who can be my opponent? The only people I fear will probably be divine king experts, Jinshin thought. In the past few years, Jinshin had gained a precise understanding of the cultivation realms corresponding to the later layers of the chaotic body from sword spirits. The 11th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to Xian immortals in the immortals world, and Xian immortals were equivalent to overgods in the saints world. If he reached the 12th layer, he would be equivalent to 9 heavens Xian immortals in the immortals world. 9 heavens Xian immortals were equivalent to divine king experts in the saints world. The 12th layer was the peak of the intermediate level of the chaotic body. If he surpassed the 12th layer and reached the 13th layer, he would have reached major achievement of the chaotic body. The chaotic body had a total of 18 layers. The 13th to the 18th layer were all major achievement of the chaotic body. The 13th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to immortal monarchs in the immortals world, which was equivalent to infinite primes in the saints world. Although each layer of the chaotic body would lead to a qualitative leap in strength, the difference between each minor realm of cultivation would also be extremely great once one reached the primordial realm. As a result, once one reached the 13th layer of the chaotic body, the increase in strength would slow down. Below the primordial realm, each layer of the chaotic body would lead to an increase in cultivation or even several cultivation realms. However, after the 13th layer, the 13th, 14th, and 15th layers of the chaotic body were equivalent to infinite primes because the difference between each cultivation realm was extremely great. The last 3 layers of the chaotic primes of the saints world corresponded to the chaotic primes of the saints world. However, due to the strength of the chaotic body, the 18th layer of the chaotic body was enough to put up a fight against regular grand primes, even though they were only peak chaotic primes. Beyond the 18th layer was the great perfection of the chaotic body that only existed in legends. Throughout history, no one had ever reached the great perfection of the chaotic body. Even the few people with the innate chaotic body that had appeared in the history of the immortals world had failed to reach the great perfection of the chaotic body. I need to reach the 11th layer as soon as possible. Jinshin secretly gritted his teeth. After absorbing the golden ginseng, he immediately took out the other heavenly resources from the Divine King's space ring and wolfed them down. He had fallen out with the protector of the Earth Spirit sect, Wainer Yin, so no one knew whether Wainer Yin would invite other experts from the Earth Spirit sect. As a result, he always felt pressured. Only by becoming stronger would he be able to gain a foothold. A short decade or so was nothing to the Dong, a province that had existed on the cloud plane for several 100,000 years. Now, it had already been 15 years since Jinshin entered seclusion. Although Jinshin had never appeared in front of the Tianyuan family during those 15 years, the prestige he had left behind in the hearts of the powerful clans in the Dong and province did not decrease at all. The name of the Tianyuan family had completely spread across the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian. Everyone in the kingdom knew that a Tianyuan family had appeared in the Dong and province, suppressing the overgod of the Wainer clan and ruling over the entire provincial city. They had become the ruler of the Dong and province, where even the imperial power could not interfere. As a matter of fact, many people in the neighboring countries had heard about the Tianyuan family in the Dong and province as well. Many people felt respect for them. The Tianyuan family had already become a supreme existence in the Dong and province. As for Mo Ling and Ando Fu, who were responsible for the daily affairs of the clan, basically all the matters of the clan were handled by the two of them due to Jinshin's seclusion. As a result, they had become figures of great authority in the Tianyuan family. They were people who could shake up the entire Dong and province with a stomp of their feet. Chapter 1814. As Wayner Yin was also in seclusion, the Wayner clan maintained an extremely low profile in the Dong province. The two gods of the Wayner clan also waited quietly for Wayner Yin to emerge. As Wayner Yin had suffered a crushing defeat in the battle against the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, the two gods of the Wayner clan did not dare to expand their territory recklessly while Wayner Yin was in seclusion. Clearly, they feared the Tian Yuan family. However, even with that being the case, the Wayner clan was still renowned in the Dong and province and the divine kingdom of Pingtian. However, they had been completely eclipsed by the Tian Yuan family, which was why very few people paid attention to the Wayner clan in the Dong province. In the past 15 years, the Tian Yuan family's strength rapidly expanded as well. They now possessed 12 gods. Aside from Mo Ling, Ando Fu, and the 4 gods from the Nanyuan clan, 5 other gods had joined the Tian Yuan family as elders. As for the final heaven god, she was a woman who hadn't cultivated for long, and her name was Shiyu. Shiyu's talent had always been extremely great. She had only cultivated for a few thousand years. With her talent, becoming a god was only a matter of time, even if she did not need anyone's help. Moreover, it would not take too long. Now that Jianshan had imparted all his comprehension of the laws of the sword to her, the time she needed to become a god was drastically shortened. On this day, 15 years later, Jianshan slowly opened his eyes as he sat in a secret room in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan family. With a flip of his hand, he took out a heavenly resource he did not know the name of from his space ring. Jianshan looked at the heavenly resource in his hand calmly. He shook his head gently and sighed. I can't keep consuming them. I've already consumed over a dozen heavenly resources in the years I've been in seclusion. My body has already developed a resistance to them. If I keep consuming these heavenly resources, they'll only be of less and less help to me. However, I still have 5 droplets of liquid lime. The liquid lime has the miraculous effect of purging the poison in the body and reducing the resistance to pills. Jianshan murmured. Immediately, he took out the J bottle with the liquid lime from his space ring. He opened the lid and poured a droplet of liquid lime into his mouth without any hesitation. Jianshan immediately felt his entire body become cold as soon as the droplet of liquid lime reached his stomach. As the icy cold feeling quickly spread throughout his body, an indescribable sense of comfort spread throughout his body. All the pores on his body opened up at this moment. He also felt the resistance to pills that he had developed from consuming large amounts of heavenly resources slowly vanish as the coldness spread through his body. At that moment, Jianshan felt his soul become extremely clear. Vaguely, the profound laws of the world seemed to become even clearer before his eyes. This miraculous effect was similar to consuming the comprehension tea tree. Not only could the liquid lime purge the poison in the body, but it also possessed some of the effects of the comprehension tea tree as well. However, compared to the comprehension tea tree, the liquid lime's ability to help people comprehend the laws of the world was clearly much weaker. Several hours later, the coldness from the liquid lime finally began to recede slowly. The resistance that had developed in Jianshan's body had finally been completely purged as well. This liquid lime really is good stuff. Jianshan could not help but sigh in amazement. Without any hesitation, he immediately consumed more heavenly resources to increase his strength as much as he could. Time passed silently. Before he knew it, all the heavenly resources in the Divine King's space ring had been consumed by Jianshan. As the heavenly resources were of quite a high grade, they were far more helpful to Jianshan than the small high-grade divine crystal mine that Jianshan had absorbed for the territory of the Liu family. As a result, his chaotic Niden grew larger and larger. Jianshan did not stop because of this. He pulled out 5 more J bottles from his space ring. To no surprise, they contained 10,000-year God origin pills. A single 10,000-year God origin pill could increase his cultivation by 10,000 years. There were a total of 50 pills, so they could increase his cultivation by 500,000 years. I wonder if these 50 10,000-year God origin pills will be enough for my chaotic body to break through to the 11th layer, Jinshin thought. He opened the bottle and poured out 5 pills in one go before swallowing them. His chaotic body could endure the energy from the God Origin pills when he was at the 9th layer. Now that his chaotic body had reached the 10th layer, the energy from the 10,000-year God Origin pills posed no threat to him at all. After who knew how long, Jinshin had consumed all 50 10,000-year God Origin pills. Jinshin felt helpless as he looked at the fist-sized chaotic Niden in his dantian. All the heavenly resources in the Divine King's space ring and the 50 10,000-year God Origin pills were still not enough for his chaotic body to reach the 11th layer. Apart from the 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal from the Divine King, I only have a few pieces of supreme-grade divine crystal from the Divine King's space ring on me right now. However, I feel like even if I absorb all of them, my chaotic body won't break through successfully, Jinshin thought. The light in his eyes began to flicker as he sat in the secret room. A while later, Jinshin made up his mind. His eyes became determined, and he suddenly stood up. He directly made his way out of the secret room. I never thought that I would have been in seclusion for 50 years already. Jinshin could not help but sigh emotionally as he stood outside and looked at the sky. Mo Ling, Ando Fu, come see me immediately. Jinshin immediately called for Mo Ling and Ando Fu after leaving the Forbidden Grounds. Very soon, Mo Ling and Ando Fu arrived before Jinshin at the same time. Aside from the two of them, there were 10 other gods who had come. Greetings to the Patriarch. A total of 12 gods stood before Jinshin politely and bowed towards Jinshin. Jinshin glanced past them and discovered that he had never seen a few of them before. He immediately understood that they were all outsiders who had joined the Tianyuan family. Afterwards, he looked at the white-clothed Shiyu, and he could not help but smile faintly. He said with some relief, "Shiyu, you really haven't disappointed me. You've become a god in such a short amount of time." Chapter 18:15. Thank you for your kindness, Patriarch. If it weren't for your assistance, it would have been impossible for me to become a god in such a short amount of time. Shiyu clasped her fist at Jinshin as her eyes flickered. Unknowingly, Jinshin's position in her heart had silently changed. Jinshin treated Shiyu very indifferently. He nodded slightly before looking at Mo Ling and Ando Fu. He said to the two of them, "I'll be leaving for a while. During this time, I'll leave all matters of the clan to the two of you. If there's anything important, crush this jade talisman." As he said that, Jinshin passed a jade talisman to Mo Ling. The jade talisman contained a sliver of the power of his soul. As long as it was crushed, he would be able to sense it. Yes, Patriarch. Mo Ling stowed the jade talisman away carefully. As soon as she heard that Jinshin was about to leave, Shiyu trembled by an undetectable amount. At that moment, she actually felt a sense of loss for some reason. Afterwards, Jinshin gave a few more orders to everyone before directly leaving the Tianyuan family. As for Shangwan Mu, and the others, they were all cultivating in the forbidden grounds of the back courtyard. Jinshin did not bring anyone with him, so he left alone this time. The only exception was the 7-colored heaven-devouring beast that remained in the bright moon divine hall, lying on Keia's coffin quietly like a loyal guard. Sigh. I don't know why Keia hasn't woken up. However, I have no idea what's going on with Keia at all. Once I go to the royal capital in the future, I'll have to ask the overgods properly and see if they can find a way to save Keia, Jinshin thought. He had also carefully examined Keia's condition countless times. There were clearly no injuries on her body. He had even used a drop of amethyst spirit bamboo juice on her primordial spirit. The sap of the amethyst spiritual bamboo was a divine item for healing injuries to the soul. With Keia's strength, a single droplet of the sap would be enough to completely heal her even if her soul was severely injured. However, in reality, using the juice of the amethyst spirit bamboo on Keia was like throwing a stone into the sea. It didn't have the slightest effect. This made Jinshin feel very puzzled. Even the sap of the amethyst spirit bamboo was useless against Keia. There are only two possibilities for this to happen. Firstly, one drop of amethyst spirit bamboo juice was far from enough to restore Kaya's primordial spirit. Secondly, Kaya's soul was not injured at all, Jinshin murmured. He naturally believed the second possibility without any hesitation. It was exactly because of this that he was unable to do anything about Kaya's current predicament. Before long, Jinshin arrived before the Divine King's dwelling again. Even though the disturbance caused by God King Duanmu's dwelling had died down several decades ago, the place was still extremely busy. It still attracted many cultivators from far away. As a result, many people would enter and leave the place basically every day. Although the over-gods from various places had taken away all the treasures in the Divine King's dwelling several decades ago, there were still many things that tempted deities and gods. This was especially the case for the godhood cultivators who cultivated the way of the sword. They treated this empty cave abode as a supreme treasure. This was because there were sword slashes left behind by the Divine King in there. It was exactly because of these sword slashes that basically all the cultivators who had comprehended the laws of the sword and the laws of space in the surrounding divine kingdoms gathered here. There were quite a few Origin Realm cultivators among them as well. As a matter of fact, even some of the divine kings who liked using the sword had come over to join the fun. They hoped to come across a fortuitous encounter that could allow them to soar. As a result, the Divine King's dwelling seemed rather crowded right now. Jinshan erased his presence and entered the Divine King's dwelling as well. As soon as he entered the dwelling, he heard a hubbub of noise. There were quite a lot of people outside the Divine King's dwelling, but there were even more people inside. It was extraordinarily busy, like a bustling market. Jinshan made his way to the depths of the Divine King's dwelling with great familiarity. Very soon, he arrived before the dwelling where Duanmu Divine King's disciple cultivated. The place was also packed with people, especially the sword comprehension building. There were even more people there. Basically, all of them stared at the sword slash that God King Duanmu had personally left behind in the building. They stared at it as they tried their best to comprehend it, hoping to benefit from it. Jinshin shook his head gently as he looked at the sword slashes in the building. He could tell with a single glance that the sword slashes had already lost their charm and mysteries. This was because the sword slashes left behind by the Divine King could only be comprehended a limited number of times. Once the limit was reached, the sword slashes would lose all of their charm and become ordinary. It would be very difficult to gain anything from them no matter how much one studied them. Jinshan did not stay for long. He continued into the depths and arrived before the 3 stone huts very soon. Now, apart from the first stone house that had collapsed, the other 2 stone houses were still standing. From time to time, people would go in and out of them. However, there were still many people outside the stone huts who were here for the first time. They were still hesitating over which hut to enter first. Quick, everyone go to the 3rd stone hut. Someone has successfully broken through to God in the 3rd stone hut again. At this moment, a voice rang out from nearby. With the voice, the cultivators gathered there immediately fell into an uproar. What? Someone has broken through in the 3rd stone hut again. I really envy them. The 3rd stone hut has already given birth to over a dozen gods in the past few years. Everyone, let's go to the 3rd stone hut. The 3rd stone hut is where the Divine King passed away. It contains the comprehension of laws left behind by the Divine King when he was alive. Now, the comprehension of laws has become very thin, just enough for us to comprehend. If we cultivate in there, our chances of breaking through to God are extremely high. Then what are we hesitating for? Let's go to the 3rd stone hut. We might be able to break through in there as well and become a god. Immediately, the cultivators who were still hesitating outside the stone huts all rushed towards the 3rd stone hut. Jinshin also moved towards the stone hut. However, he did not head towards the 3rd stone hut. Instead, he headed towards the 2nd stone hut. Stepping through the door of the stone hut, Jinshin's vision suddenly opened up. He had already appeared in another world. This was an extremely huge world. The entire world was filled with endless mountains. Extremely steep, sword-shaped mountains rose from the ground, piercing the sky. Many of the mountains were covered with huge sword slashes. This was where the divine King Duanmu had once trained in the sword. As a result, the entire space was filled with invisible sword chi. Even after countless years, it still could not erase its sharpness. Chapter 1816. This place was basically a paradise for godhood cultivators who had comprehended the laws of the sword. To them, the sword scars left behind on the mountain peaks were peerless treasures. Even to Jianshun, who had reached over God with the laws of the sword, this place was still of great help to him. As a matter of fact, countless people had tried various methods in the past few years in an attempt to take away the sword slashes on the mountains for themselves. However, it was a pity that no one had succeeded until now. This was because all the mountains with sword slashes were extremely tough. It was impossible to move them away. Many people gathered in the mountains as well. Many cultivators of various levels of cultivation either sat on the rocks or hovered in the air, comprehending the sword intent within the slashes. However, not all of them had comprehended the laws of the way of the sword. Most of them had comprehended other laws. It was only because the weapons they used were also swords that they hoped to comprehend a new way of using swords from the sword slashes. Or perhaps they wanted to comprehend a second law of their own. Of course, there were countless people who comprehended the laws of the sword, but those who truly benefited were as rare as phoenix feathers or Qilin horns. Jiancheng glanced around before finding a place casually. He sat down on the ground, and with a flip of his hand, the two scrolls on the laws of the sword he had obtained from the Divine King's space ring appeared in his hand. He opened one of them and began to read through it carefully like he was intoxicated. This is where the Divine King Duanmu practiced the sword in the past. There are basically traces of the Divine King's laws of the sword everywhere in this space. Comprehending the laws of the sword Duanmu Divine King Duanmu in an environment like this will undoubtedly allow me to achieve twice the results with half the effort. I'll be able to break through to the partial achievement of sword spirit in the shortest amount of time possible, Jinshin thought. He had sensed long ago that his laws of the sword had already reached the peak of the minor achievement of sword spirit. He was only a step away from the partial achievement. The divine King Duanmu's attainments in the way of the sword were extremely great. He was even half a step away from the primordial realm. The sword principle cultivation experience written by him was of great help to Jinshin. Jinshin's mind was completely immersed in Duanmu's Divine King's writings. After reading these two books, Jinshin gained a lot. He felt as if he was suddenly enlightened. There were many things that he did not understand in the past, but now he vaguely found the direction. In fact, Jinshin had even discovered his own misconceptions about the way of the sword from the divine King Duanmu's writings, which had deepened his understanding of the way of the sword. In the blink of an eye, Jinshin had already sat there for 10 years. During these 10 years, his body did not move at all, as if he had completely turned into a stone statue. Even his body was covered in a thick layer of dust. This person has sat there for 10 years. Has he already gained something? Although 10 years isn't a long time, we've even gone through several hundred years of seclusion, let alone 10 years. However, I've never seen anyone sit there for 10 years in a place like this. That's right. To us, these sword scars are perhaps too profound. We're simply unable to comprehend the profoundness within them. Practically all of us would sit there for 2 or 3 years before stopping to properly ponder over it. Or perhaps we would change to another location to continue comprehending it. It is very rare to see someone sit in one location for 10 years. In the past few years, there have been a few gods who have comprehended a sliver of their mysteries, but unfortunately, they couldn't last for too long before vomiting blood and becoming heavily injured. The slashes left behind by the divine King Duanmu are just too profound. If you can't comprehend them, you'll naturally be fine, but once you do, even gods won't be able to endure the backlash of the sword intent. However, since this person can sit there for 10 years, his cultivation must be extremely impressive. In just 10 years, Jinshin had attracted the attention of many people. However, without exception, all of their gazes towards him were filled with surprise and astonishment. There were even a few people who looked at Jianshan with admiration. Cultivating for 10 years was not worth mentioning to everyone present. However, being able to comprehend for 10 years here was no small matter. At this moment, Jianshan, who was covered in a thick layer of dust, finally moved his statue-like body. As he moved, a large amount of dust rolled down from his body. That person has finally woken up. Heavens, he actually didn't vomit blood. Has he really been comprehending the sword intent here in the past 10 years? Look at how he's completely entered a state of selflessness. He must have entered a state of comprehension. Who is this person? As soon as Jianshan woke up, he immediately attracted the attention of many people. Many gazes from all over the mountains gathered on him at that moment. However, no one recognized Jianshan. Although they all knew about the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan in the Dong'an province, there were only a handful of people who had actually seen him. Jianshan did not seem to notice the gazes from the surroundings at all. He slowly put the 2 scrolls away. During the past 10 years, he had comprehended the 2 scrolls together with the sword slashes on the mountains. He had made extremely great progress. Now, he felt like he was only a tiny step away from reaching the partial achievement of sword spirit. At this moment, another group of people walked in from the outside. There were a total of 3 of them, 2 men and 1 woman. Among them, the woman looked to be in her 20s. Her appearance could be considered stunning, but her clothes were very revealing. In front of her chest, there was only a ribbon covering her 2 dark red spots. More than half of her body was exposed. Her lower body was also wearing an extremely short skirt that only covered 3 parts of her body. A pair of perfectly round and slender legs were completely exposed in the air. Moreover, the lascivious look in this woman's eyes was sometimes revealed without any concealment, and it was filled with a dense lust and evilness. The 2 other men stood to the left and right of the woman. They were middle-aged as well. However, even with that being the case, a sliver of primitive human desire would flicker through their gazes when they looked at the woman from time to time. However, it just so happened that the 2 of them did not dare to touch the woman at all with their cultivation as gods. Unless they obtained her permission, they did not even dare to touch a single hair on her. Chapter 18:17. The young man was only at reciprocity, so he was unable to put up any resistance at all before the woman who was a deity. He was bound by her effortlessly. "Senior W, what are you doing?" The young man panicked. A perverted expression appeared on the scantily clad woman's face as she brought her face close to the young man's face. She stuck out her tongue and lightly licked the young man's cheeks. Her body emitted a fragrance that could arouse the most primitive flames of desire. Her breath smelled like orchids as she said softly, "Little brother, don't be nervous and don't be afraid. Big sister won't hurt you because I've already taken a fancy to you. Let big sister take good care of you. Let big sister take you to paradise." After saying that, the scantily clad woman waved her hand. Immediately, a temple flew out. It rapidly expanded in midair before crashing heavily onto the ground. The woman grabbed the young man and directly took him into the divine hall, ignoring the young man's resistance. The people who had gathered in the space to comprehend the way of the sword focused their gazes on the scantily clad woman. However, many of their expressions became rather strange very soon. The reason for that was because the shrine that the scantily clad woman had taken out was actually transparent. What was transparent? Even if they stood outside, they could clearly see everything that happened within the divine hall. It was not hidden at all. The lewd light in the eyes of the woman in revealing clothes became more and more intense. Under everyone's gazes, she stripped the young man of all his clothes impatiently before ripping off the clothes on her. She directly pressed the young man onto the ground and sat on him. She was doing something despicable in front of everyone. Senior, please don't. Senior, please spare me." The young man did not show any pleasure at all. Instead, he begged in pain. However, his body had already been trapped. He was unable to move at all. All he could do was stare at the woman on him helplessly. However, his complexion was gradually turning pale. The skin on his body was also gradually losing its luster, becoming yellow and withered. It was as if he had lost all of his vitality. On the other hand, the woman's face glowed. She was brimming with energy as if she had eaten a great tonic. Tui, how shameless, what a shameless person. There were also quite a number of women in this space. When they saw this unsightly scene, their pretty faces turned red as they opened their mouths to curse. "Oof, you're looking to die." The curses of these women immediately caused the two middle-aged men who came in with the scantily clad women to become furious. One of them let out a cold cry, and a huge axe appeared in his hand. He swung the axe at the women. A huge axe blade swept across the sky, bringing with it a monstrous demonic chi that enveloped the few women. Those women's cultivation bases were not even at the heavenly god realm. Facing the attack of a heavenly god, how could they be a match? They were all scared pale. "Great-grandfather!" At this moment, one of the women called out. An old man sitting on a mountain nearby suddenly opened his eyes. The moment he stood up, a sharp strand of sword chi immediately radiated from him. He wielded his sword and directly sent out a strand of sword chi that collided with the middle-aged man's axe in the air. Boom! With a boom, the middle-aged man's axe immediately collapsed. The sword chi dimmed slightly, but it did not disperse. Instead, it continued towards a middle-aged man with lightning-like speed, a god who has comprehended the laws of the sword. The expression of the middle-aged man holding the giant axe changed. He immediately chopped out a second time and dispersed the remaining power of the sword chi. However, he could not help but take a small step back. Following that, he looked at the old man with eyes filled with fear. At the same time, Jinshin's eyes narrowed. He could not help but study the old man carefully as interest filled his face. "My granddaughter is not someone that just anyone can harm. Moreover, you've actually done something so unsightly in front of so many people. You've offended public decency. Today, this old man will properly teach you a lesson." The old man wielded his sword as he radiated with powerful sword intent. He strode through the air and rapidly approached the two middle-aged men. His presence surged. "Oomph, we're from the M.O. family. Sir, do you want to become enemies with our M.O. family?" The middle-aged man with the axe growled. He was stern. The old man comprehended the laws of the sword. He was extremely powerful. Even if the two of them worked together, they would not be his opponent. The old man halted when he heard the M.O. family. His face changed slightly as well. He growled, "The M.O. family? Is it the M.O. family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang?" The two middle-aged men could not help but brighten up when they saw the old man's reaction. They could tell that the old man feared the M.O. family. "That's right. We're the elders of the M.O. family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang," the middle-aged man with the axe said proudly. The middle-aged man with the giant axe said proudly. At the same time, he took out an identity token. Fear immediately appeared in the old man's eyes when he saw the medallion that represented the identity of an elder of the M.O. family. He snorted coldly and turned around. He arrived before a young woman and protected her behind him. Clearly, he did not dare to provoke the M.O. family. "Great-grandfather, that woman is so shameless." The woman hid behind the old man and said furiously, "Enough, let's not talk about this anymore. The M.O. family is a clan of overgods. They're not people we can provoke," the old man said to the woman secretly. His voice was filled with helplessness. After the middle-aged man revealed his identity, some of the people who originally wanted to fight for justice all restrained themselves, and fear appeared in their eyes. Clearly, they did not dare to provoke the M.O. family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Jianchan sighed gently when he saw this. He slowly stood up and casually pointed to the transparent divine hall. With that, an extremely tiny strand of sword chi immediately shot out with lightning speed, directly shattering the divine hall. Powerful ripples of energy expanded outwards, forcefully separating the woman and young man. The woman was extremely excited, so she could not help but become furious when her plans were suddenly ruined. She immediately called out, "Who is it? Who did this? Are you tired of living? Miss, please conduct yourself with dignity in public. Don't do anything that offends your image," Jianshan said emotionlessly as he stood on the mountain peak. Disgust appeared in his eyes. How dare you? The woman did not wear any clothes. She just stood there carelessly as she pointed at Jianshan. Just when she was about to call out, she could not help but become stunned. She stared at Jianshan blankly as he stood on the mountain peak with his arms behind his back. Infatuation filled her face. Chapter 18:18. Jianshan frowned. He became slightly impatient. At the same time, everyone's gazes gathered on Jianshan again. It's him, the person who has sat here for 10 years without moving. What is his cultivation? He clearly knows that she's from the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, yet he's still bold enough to attack her. He really isn't that simple. However, it seems like he doesn't dare to provoke the Mo family too much. Otherwise, he wouldn't have just destroyed the divine hall without harming the woman. That despicable woman has actually gone to find him. I wonder how he's going to deal with her. Many people wondered inside, guessing at Jianshan's strength and background. However, even more people were paying attention to how Jianshan was going to deal with today. This was because the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang was an organization with overgods. The woman did not become angered at all when she saw how Jianshan remained silent. Her eyes were filled with affection as she said gently, "Big brother, I fell in love with you at first sight. Are you really going to be so cold? Don't be so insensitive. Show me some affection. I swear that I won't harm you at all. I won't treat you like that, little brother. Big brother, I can teach you a cultivation method for balancing yin and yang. We only need to cultivate it once, and our strength will increase drastically. I can promise you that you only need to try it once, and you'll fall deeply in love with it." The woman from the Mo family stood behind Jianshan naked as she spoke to Jianshan's back. Her voice was filled with hope and desire. She was not lying. She was telling the truth because she had truly been deeply attracted by Jianshan's bearing. "Piss off, or don't blame me for what happens to you," Jianshan said coldly. A sliver of heavy killing intent appeared in his eyes. The woman was only a deity. In Jianshan's eyes, she was as weak as an ant. He originally disdained to kill the other party, but the other party's actions had stirred up the killing intent in his heart. Sensing Jianshan's killing intent, the woman from the Mo family perhaps also knew that Jianshan would not fall for her tricks. Her face could not help but darken. She placed her hands on her hips and said coldly, "You want to do this the hard way? No one has ever been able to escape from the men I want. I'll definitely have you today. From today onwards, you'll be my boy toy." With that, the woman looked at the two middle-aged men nearby and said, "Elders, please tie this person up." The two elders of the Mo family hesitated slightly before directly flying towards Jianshan. It looks like there really aren't many good people in the Mo family. Jianshan was emotionless. Suddenly, a weak streak of light appeared with a flash from his finger, pointing towards the forehead of the woman from the Mo family casually. As a mere deity, the woman of the Mo family was unable to put up any resistance at all before an overgod. A bloody hole appeared between her eyebrows, and in the blink of an eye, her soul had been wiped out. She fell straight down. The two elders of the Mo family who were flying over became stunned when they saw the bloody hole on the woman's forehead. Their eyes widened as disbelief filled their faces. It was not just the two of them. Even all the people gathered in the space became filled with disbelief. She was a member of the Mo family, and she seemed to possess quite a high status, yet she had been slain so decisively by Jianshan. Everyone present was deeply shocked by what he had done. "You actually killed the second young miss." The two elders of the Mo family paled. They understood the status of the second young miss in the Mo family very well. She was someone who was deeply doted on by the ancestor of the Mo family. Now that she had died before the two of them, the ancestor would definitely lose his mind. Jianshan looked at the two elders of the Mo family and said coldly, "People of the Mo family, if you want to live a little longer, you better behave yourself in the provincial city. Do you know who you've killed? Our ancestor will never spare you." The two elders no longer dared to charge towards Jianshan. Instead, they called out from afar. They had already guessed that Jianshan definitely had something to rely on since he dared to kill a member of the Mo family fearlessly. I just happen to have something on your ancestor. Go back and inform your ancestor. Before long, Jianshun will definitely pay a personal visit, said Jianshun. Although it was a visit, anyone could tell that Jianshun had no intentions of visiting at all. What? You're Jianshun? Why? You're the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province. The expressions of the two elders of the Mo family changed drastically when they heard Jianshun's name. They staggered backwards uncontrollably as shock filled their faces. At the same time, the expressions of all the cultivators gathered there changed drastically as well. Their eyes widened as they stared at Jianshun in disbelief. Their hearts churned. What? He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Heavens, I've never heard of him before. He's actually the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province, Jianshun. In the Dong'an province, the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianshun, is a great figure who can do as he pleases. I've actually seen the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. At that moment, everyone's gazes towards Jianshun changed. They were filled with curiosity as well as reverence from the bottom of their hearts. Run, run. The two elders of the Mo family dared not say anything. They glanced at Jianshun in fear before turning around and fleeing. They fled as quickly as they could. They did not even bother with the corpse of the woman from the Mo family. Jianshun did not stop them. He allowed them to flee. Although the ancestor of the Mo family had taken something from him, that was a matter between him and the ancestor of the Mo family. In his opinion, it was pointless to vent his anger on these gods. At this moment, Jianshun looked at the old man and clasped his hands. May I ask for your name? The old man immediately felt flattered when he saw Jianshun personally ask about him. He clasped his hands towards Jianshun in a hurry and said, I am Jianshun, and I come from the Kaiyang province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Greetings to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. Qiqian, I can see that you have some accomplishments in the laws of the sword. May I ask if you're interested in joining my Tian Yuan family? If you are, I will definitely assist you to break through to Overgod with everything I have, Jianshun said, extending an olive branch to Qiqian. This was because he had a vague feeling that Qiqian's accomplishments in the laws of the sword would be far greater than this. Qiqian beamed with joy when he heard that. He said excitedly, Is that true, Patriarch? If I join the Tian Yuan family, will the Patriarch really assist me to break through to Overgod with everything he has? Chapter 18-19. Of course, since I've made a promise like that, I'll definitely assist you with everything I have as long as your talent isn't too bad, Jianshun swore. Although his laws of the sword had only reached mid-Overgod right now, he was confident that helping Qiqian break through to Overgod would not be very difficult. Qiqian's current cultivation was only at the middle stage of the heavenly god realm. It would still take some time for him to reach the peak heavenly god realm. With the rate at which his laws of the sword increased, he would have reached the major achievement of sword spirit, the great perfection of sword spirit, or even sword immortal by the time Qiqian reached peak god. Even if the situation had changed, where his laws of the sword would remain at the partial achievement of sword spirit, when Qiqian became a peak god, he still believed that it would not be too much of a problem for Qiqian to break through to Overgod with his full assistance. I should be leaving here very soon. Before I leave, I need to increase the strength of the Tian Yuan family a little more. It'll be best if they have an Overgod personally watch over them. Only then can we ensure that nothing happens to the clan. However, I also need to deal with the matter of the Wainer clan. If we can't coexist peacefully, I can't be blamed. Otherwise, it'll always be a problem, Jianshun thought. The reason why he wanted to rope in Qiqian this time was because he had a strange feeling that Qiqian would definitely achieve quite a lot in the future. However, Jianshun was rather confused about where this feeling came from. Even though that was the case, Jianshun believed in his intuition without any hesitation. Secondly, and most importantly, he already considered leaving the Tian Yuan family. After all, he was from the Immortals world, so he would have to return to the Immortals world eventually. Although he was not born in the Immortals world, nor did he even know what the immortals' world was like. He was unable to deny his identity as a person from the immortals' world due to his cultivation method, his legacy, and the existence of the twin swords. As a result, he had to find a way to increase the strength of the Tianyuan family before he left. At the very least, he had to ensure that the Tianyuan family could continue to exist in the divine kingdom of Pingtian stably. This was because not only did the clan exist to protect the people who had come up with him from the Tianyuan continent, but it also affected the future generations who would come up from the Tianyuan continent. When passing through the tunnel of the Saints' world, they would be sent to one of the 49 Great Plains and 81 Great Planets. However, Jinshin believed that once he reached a certain level of strength, he would be able to change all of this. Perhaps he would be able to change this phenomenon so that all the people from the other world could gather in the Tianyuan family. Qi Qian was extremely excited after receiving Jinshin's promise. Although he was a god now, he had no confidence in breaking through to Overgod. Across the 36 provincial cities of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, there were several dozen or even over 100 gods in each city. However, there were only a handful of them who could become lords. If he could obtain the full assistance of the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Qi Qian believed that he would definitely be able to become a god. However, Qi Qian hesitated soon afterwards. He said to Jinshin, "But patriarch, I already have a clan in the Kaiyang province. I'm a member of the Qi family." Jinshin waved his hand without minding it at all. He smiled faintly. "It's fine. After you join my Tianyuan family, you'll still be a member of the Qi family. I am indebted to the Tianyuan family. From today onwards, Qi Qian will join the Tianyuan family," Qi Qian said politely. In the Saints' world, many people would choose to join large clans, sects, and other organizations in order to obtain cultivation methods and reach higher levels of cultivation. Qi Qian had only made the same choice today. With my age and talent, they might not think highly of me if I join those powerful clans or sections. Even if I manage to join them out of luck, I probably won't be treated with any importance. I'll just be left to fend for myself. Although the Tianyuan family can't be compared to those large sects and organizations, it's enough as long as the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is willing to assist me in breaking through to Overgod. And there's another benefit to joining the Tianyuan family, which is that I don't have to worry about the revenge of the Mo family. The Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang is renowned for their vengeful nature. They hold grudges and are extremely protective of their own. I wonder if the two protectors of the Mo family will hold any grudges against me today, thought Qi Qian. Qihan greets the patriarch. At the same time, the great-granddaughter behind, Qi Qian, stepped forward as well. She bowed towards Jinshin politely. Many people in the surroundings looked at Qi Qian with eyes filled with envy. After all, Qi Qian had not joined the Tianyuan family through normal means. Instead, he had been invited by the Tianyuan family, and they had personally promised to assist him in breaking through to Overgod. After Jinshin's identity was exposed, his status in the space immediately became extremely special. Everyone no longer looked at him casually and boldly like before. Instead, their gazes were filled with reverence and respect. This was because he was an overgod. He was the sky of the Dong, and province, the ruler of the province. Afterwards, Jinshan passed Qi Qian a medallion that represented his status as an elder of the Tianyuan family before continuing to comprehend the laws of the sword. In the blink of an eye, it had already been 2 decades since Jinshin's arrival. After comprehending the laws of the sword for a total of 20 years, the sword Qi in the space suddenly became abnormally powerful. All the cultivators there felt like they had fallen into a sea of swords. They were enveloped by invisible sword Qi. The sword Qi was densely packed, filling every corner of the space. Even the origin energy in the surroundings seemed to be affected. The gentle origin energy became sharp at that moment. Everyone stopped cultivating. They used powerful origin energy to protect themselves, doing everything they could to keep the invisible sword Qi at bay. Fortunately, the sword Qi had appeared naturally and was not targeted at them. As a result, they did not suffer any injuries as they resisted with their full strength. However, there was one exception. He was the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianshun, who was covered in dust once again. At this moment, Jianshun remained seated like a statue. He did not move at all. Chapter 1820. It's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. That person is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. What's happening? Why has the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan suddenly given off such powerful sword chi? Has he broken through? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already very powerful. I heard that the over-god of the Wainer clan was not the patriarch's opponent at all, being suppressed the entire time. Now that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has broken through again, just how powerful has he become? Is he a mid-over-god? Or is he a late-over-god? I heard that every breakthrough for over-gods requires an extremely long period of cultivation. However, the Tian Yuan family has only stayed here for 20 years, and they've broken through again. Their talent is just too terrifying. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has already become a peak expert in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even among overgods, there aren't a lot of people who are his opponent because the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has comprehended the laws of the sword. Many cultivators stood in the distance as they cried out as they looked at Jianshun. Qi Qian, who had yet to leave, also felt joy from the bottom of his heart when he saw Jianshun break through again. He was now a member of the Tian Yuan family. The more powerful the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was, the more unshakable the status of the Tian Yuan family would be. At the same time, his chances of becoming an overgod would increase as well. The powerful sword chi from Jianshun lasted for an entire day before finally dispersing slowly. Very soon, the surroundings returned to peace. With the disappearance of the powerful sword chi, the cultivators gathered around them all put away the powerful energy barriers around them. They all stared at Jianshun in awe. At this moment, Jianshun slowly opened his eyes. The moment he opened his eyes, a streak of light that seemed almost tangible shot out from his eyes. It directly struck a cliff several thousand meters away, producing a heavy thud. If it were not for the fact that the rocks here had become extremely tough from the slashes left behind by God King Duanmu when he was alive, Jianshun's gaze probably would have been enough to pierce through the mountain peak. I've finally broken through successfully to the partial achievement of sword spirit. Jianshun smiled faintly. After 20 years of seclusion and comprehension of the sword, he had broken through once again in the divine king's dwelling. When I first reached the minor achievement of sword spirit, the laws of the sword were only equivalent to early overgod. Afterwards, I comprehended something on the second floor of the sword comprehension building, allowing me to take another step forward when I reached the minor achievement of sword spirit. After a few years of nurturing, my laws of the sword have reached the peak of the minor achievement of sword spirit, which is equivalent to mid-overgods in the saints' world. Now that my laws of the sword have reached the partial achievement of sword spirit, it's equivalent to the comprehension of late overgods, Jianshun thought. He immediately analyzed his current strength. In terms of comprehension of laws and cultivation, he was already a late overgod. The only thing he lacked was his cultivation. His chaotic body was still at the 10th layer, which was equivalent to a god. Only when he broke through to the 11th layer would his cultivation reach overgod. Cultivation was the comprehension of the laws of the world. Cultivation was the energy in the Dantian. My chaotic Niden is still lacking a third of the energy before I can break through to the 11th layer. I need to find the remaining cultivation resources as soon as possible. Jianshun secretly made up his mind before leaving without any reluctance. After breaking through to the partial achievement of sword spirit, this place no longer held much significance to Jianshun. This was because this was only where the divine king practiced the sword and not where the divine king passed on his laws. Jianshun had already comprehended and absorbed all the comprehension of the laws of the sword that was beneficial to Jianshun. It would be difficult for him to make any more progress if he remained. However, what Jianshun did not know was that after he left, the place where he cultivated had become the most sought-after place. Everyone wanted to take it for themselves. It was as if, to them, As long as they could comprehend the sword in this place, their chances of success would greatly increase. However, as people from various divine kingdoms had gathered there, the news of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan's breakthrough was reported back to the clan as quickly as possible. The ancestor of the Mo family sat in a space at the top of a tower in black robes within the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang. He held a piece of damaged armor in his hand as he studied it repeatedly. Hesitation filled his eyes. This armor is far too damaged. Even if I find the corresponding materials, I won't be able to repair it with my current strength. However, if I don't repair it, the armor will only become an extremely rare and useless collector's item in my hands. I can sell it to those large sects and large clans, and I'll definitely be able to obtain quite a handsome reward. However, this armor is a god artifact after all. Even though it's damaged, I'm unwilling to sell it just like that. That's because the items given to me by those large sects and clans probably won't be able to increase my strength. No matter how many divine crystals and heavenly resources I have, my strength will remain the same if I can't break through with my comprehension of laws. However, if I can repair the armor and use it, it'll directly increase my strength, thought the ancestor of the Mo family as he became uneasy. Jianshan killed my beloved disciple, so he took away a lot of my fun. I will never forgive him. Although my cultivation has reached the peak of mid-over-god, I still don't have much confidence in blocking the 2 strands of sword chi from Jianshan. If I want to kill Jianshan, I need to find a way to block the 2 strands of sword chi. However, if I want to block the 2 strands of sword chi, I'll need to break through to late overgod or several overgods working together. It'll probably be difficult for me to break through in a short amount of time, but finding overgods at the same level to deal with Jianshan is extremely difficult as well. After all, basically everyone has learned about Jianshan's strength and ability after the trip to the Divine King's tomb. It'll be difficult to get them to deal with Jianshan. Even if I really can get them to help, I won't be willing to pay the price. The ancestor of the Mo family looked at the damaged armor in his hand again and murmured, "It looks like I can only rely on this armor now." The armor is a god artifact, after all. It doesn't need to be completely repaired. Even if it's only a 10th or 20%, it'll be more than enough to block Jianshan's 2 strands of sword chi. However, the liquid is just too precious. Do I really have to use it like this? The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but think of the droplets of liquid he had obtained by coincidence. He had discovered the droplets of liquid by accident in outer space. At that time, the droplets of liquid just hovered there silently as they gave off a strange pulse. The ancestor of the Mo family had no idea what the liquid was, but he knew that it was extraordinary. As a result, he stowed it away happily. Afterwards, after countless years of experimenting, he finally discovered the unique ability of the liquid, which was regeneration. He had no idea just how powerful the liquid was or whether it could repair god artifacts. He only knew that a single droplet of the liquid had completely healed the damaged supreme quality saint artifact he had collected in the past. The only flaw was that after the repair, its grade would drop from extreme grade to high grade. Chapter 1821. The ancestor of the Mo family hesitated as he looked at the damaged god artifact in his hand. The light in his eyes flickered. He was extremely hesitant. Afterwards, with a thought, a simple jade bottle appeared in his hand silently. The ancestor of the Mo family stared at the jade bottle and remained silent for a very long time. This was because this jade bottle contained the few drops of miraculous liquid that he had unintentionally obtained from the outer space. This liquid is extremely precious. That's without a doubt. But should I use on the god artifact or not? And I can't be certain whether the liquid can repair the god artifact or not. If it can't be repaired, wouldn't I be wasting a treasure like this? The ancestor of the Mo family held the damaged god artifact in one hand and the jade bottle in the other. He felt extremely conflicted inside. Moreover, there's another important point. Treasuring a god artifact is a crime. Even infinite primes in the saints' world don't possess one. With my mere strength as an overgod, I definitely won't be able to keep the god artifact once news of this gets out. It might even lead to death. Of course, if the god artifact remained in its current damaged state, it wouldn't have attracted the attention of primordial realm experts. However, if I really did repair the god artifact, there would probably be more than just a single primordial realm expert looking for me. However, if I don't repair the god artifact, how am I supposed to kill Jianshan and avenge my disciple? The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but become furious when he thought about how the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had killed his beloved disciple. Killing intent surged within him. Of course, the most important thing was the message the two protectors had brought back in the past. It made the ancestor of the Mo family feel pressured. The message was that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianshan, would personally come to retrieve the god artifact before long. In the long run, I can't repair the god artifact right now because I can't protect it with my current strength. And I've heard that the only way to unleash the power of a god artifact is to reach the primordial realm. I'm still far too lacking right now. The desire in the ancestor's eyes gradually vanished, and he calmed down. He had already given up on using the wondrous liquid to repair the armor. Greetings, ancestor. I have something important to report. Right at this moment, a voice that was filled with respect sounded from outside. Speak, said the ancestor of the Mo family. Ancestor, we've just received news that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan in the Dong, and province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, has broken through in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling. The people outside said politely. However, that was like a bolt out of the blue to the ancestor of the Mo family. He shuddered violently, and his face immediately sank. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan has actually broken through. Is that true? The ancestor of the Mo family growled. This was absolutely terrible news to him. Ancestor, I've investigated the news many times, and it has been confirmed. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan has indeed broken through in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling. His current cultivation level is unknown. The people outside replied politely. The ancestor of the Mo family fell silent. His eyes sank, and only after quite a while did he wave his hand. Old man understands. You can leave. I'll be taking my leave then. The ancestor of the Mo family sat in the secret room. His sunken face became stern very soon. If Jianshan had not broken through, the ancestor of the Mo family would only treat him as a powerful opponent, a huge problem. Although he would pose some threat, it would not be life-threatening. This was because other than the profound sword chi that he feared, he did not care about Jianshan's cultivation at all. This was because the ancestor of the Mo family was already at the peak of mid-overgod, while Jianshan was only an early overgod. Even if he comprehended the laws of the sword, he would not be his opponent. If it were not for the threat of the two strands of profound sword chi, the ancestor of the Mo family would have directly charged towards Jianshan murderously after Jianshan killed his beloved disciple. Yet now, he had actually heard that Jianshan had broken through. If he really did break through, wouldn't that mean that Jianshan's cultivation would be on the same level as his? If Jianshan really did stand at the same level as him, the ancestor of the Mo family knew that he would not be Jianshan's opponent, with Jianshan's battle prowess as an overgod of the way of the sword and the two terrifying strands of profound sword chi. Since Jianshan has broken through, he will definitely come to the divine kingdom of Qingyang to look for me before long. I will never give him the god artifact. Not only will I not give it to him, but I'll even kill him to avenge my beloved disciple. The ancestor of the Mo family said sternly as cold, killing intent filled his eyes. It looks like I have to do this. This god artifact is my greatest trump card for killing Jianshan. The ancestor of the Mo family clenched his teeth. The ancestor of the Mo family gritted his teeth. Determination filled his face. Without any hesitation, he opened the bottle and carefully poured out a droplet of the precious, wondrous liquid onto the damaged armor. The liquid was transparent, but the moment it appeared, it gave off an indescribable, mysterious presence. When it came in contact with the damaged god artifact, it immediately fused with it silently. The ancestor of the Mo family stared at the damaged god artifact nervously. In reality, he had no idea whether the wondrous liquid could repair a god artifact or not. After a while, under the ancestor of the MO family's extremely nervous gaze, a hazy light suddenly rose up from the damaged god artifact. It enveloped the entire god artifact in a single instance. The ancestor of the MO family could clearly see that the extremely damaged god artifact was actually recovering at an extremely slow rate through the hazy light. Even though the rate of recovery could not be described as slow as a snail, one thing was undeniable, which was that the god artifact was slowly being repaired. It can actually be repaired. It can actually be repaired. Fantastic, fantastic. This is just fantastic. With the protection of this god artifact, how can a mere overgod like Jianshun harm me? Even though I'm still unable to unleash the god artifact's power with my current cultivation, it's not something an overgod can break through. The ancestor of the MO family was extremely excited. His face had become completely red. He could swear that he had never been so excited ever since he began cultivating. For hours later, the hazy light around the god artifact slowly dispersed, revealing the original appearance of the god artifact. The god artifact was still damaged, but it had changed extremely clearly compared to before. This was because a few places had been repaired, and it seemed like it had been restored to its original state. Chapter 1822. The ancestor of the MO family did not possess a lot of these wondrous liquids. When he discovered them in outer space, he only had 6 droplets in total. He had used one of the 6 droplets to study the effects of a liquid. In the end, he wasted it on the damaged supreme quality Saint artifact, so he only had 5 droplets left. Even though the ancestor of the MO family did not know what the liquid was called, nor had he heard any legends about it in the Saint's world, it was more than enough to show how precious the liquid was, since a single droplet could repair a damaged supreme quality Saint artifact. Originally, the ancestor of the MO family did not plan on using the liquid to repair the god artifact today. He knew that if the god artifact was damaged, he could still take it for himself with his strength. However, once the god artifact was repaired, it would be very difficult for him to keep it with his strength. As a matter of fact, as long as the news of him possessing a god artifact in perfect condition leaked out, countless experts would be drawn over. Moreover, these experts would not be at the Divine King realm. Instead, they would be at the primordial realm, a realm that surpassed the Divine King. However, now that he had heard about Jinshin's breakthrough, he had no choice but to repair the god artifact. He only had the confidence to kill the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan with the help of the god artifact. As the 5 droplets of wondrous liquid dripped into the god artifact, the damaged god artifact immediately began to glow with an even more intense, hazy light. The damaged parts began to repair at an even faster rate. The ancestor of the MO family's eyes were filled with nervousness, eagerness, and excitement as he stared at the rapidly repairing god artifact in his hand. Even though he had no idea whether he could keep the god artifact forever, being able to personally witness a damaged god artifact being repaired was something worth rejoicing over. The hazy light that enveloped the god artifact lasted for several hours before gradually disappearing. When the light completely dispersed, the god artifact's original appearance was finally revealed. The ancestor of the MO family could not help but become overjoyed when he saw the repaired god artifact. He murmured, "It's actually been completely repaired. It's actually completely repaired. Fantastic. The liquid is just too wondrous. It can even repair god artifacts. Although I don't have the ability to refine this god artifact right now, nor can I even unleash the power of the god artifact. As long as I wear it, I'll be able to block the attacks of any overgod with just the defenses of the god artifact. Even late overgods won't be my opponent," Jian Chen sighed. The ancestor of the MO family was overjoyed when he thought up to that point. However, he also understood that he had to keep the god artifact a secret. He could not take it out unless he faced with danger. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. So what if you have 2 terrifying strands of sword chi? I don't fear you anymore. The ancestor of the MO family's confidence swelled. At that moment, he was tempted to directly go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian and personally kill Jinshin. After all, he had obtained the god artifact from Jinshin. He was afraid that Jinshin would leak the news of the god artifact. However, Jinshin's strength should be on par with mine, and he has comprehended the laws of the sword. I'll be undefeatable with the god artifact, but killing him won't be easy. If he wants to flee, it'll be very difficult for me to stop him. I can't directly go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian right now. Whatever. Jinshin probably won't leak the news of the god artifact so easily because he has no idea that I've already repaired it. What I need to do now is cast down the most powerful formation here and wait for Jinshin to come. The Sword-Seeking Province was one of the 36 provinces of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. At the same time, it was known as the Greatest Province. This was because the master of the province, Ling Ho-gong, was not only a powerful overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, but he was also one of the founding members of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. The Sword-Seeking Province was also the only provincial city in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian that was completely exempt from taxes. All the income in the provincial city belonged to Ling Ho-gong's Ling family. Just this alone was a great honor to the Ling family of the Sword-Seeking Province. There was an extremely large, majestic estate in the center of the provincial city. The estate was where the greatest clan of the Sword-Seeking Province, the Ling family, resided. Today, at the entrance of the Ling clan, there was a young man in a white robe walking slowly towards them. Stop. This is the Ling family's estate. Outsiders are not allowed to approach. Before the young man could get close to the main gate of the Ling clan, he was stopped by the guards at the gate. The young man did not stop. Under the sharp gazes of the guards, he made his way to the entrance leisurely. He said to the guards in an amiable manner, "Please report that Jinshin from the Tianyuan family has come to visit. The patriarch has ordered that unless you're invited, no one is allowed to." A guard said emotionlessly as he glared at Jinshin. However, before the guard had even finished speaking, he suddenly came to a halt. His gaze changed drastically at that moment. He stared at Jinshin in disbelief and said in surprise, "Wait, what did you just say? The Tianyuan family? Which Tianyuan family is it?" "Don't tell me it's the Tianyuan family from the Dong'an province." Jinshin smiled. "That's right. It's the Tianyuan family from the Dong'an province." The expressions of the guards immediately changed when they heard that it was the Tianyuan family from the Dong'an province. Their gazes towards Jinshin had already lost their sharpness and were filled with respect. "Esteemed guest, please wait for a moment. I'll inform the patriarch immediately." A guard ran off in a hurry. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, was currently holding a clan meeting in the discussion hall. He sat high on the patriarch's throne as he was stern. He gave off a dignified presence. Several dozen members of the upper echelon of the Ling family sat below him. At this moment, a guard ignored the rules and rushed into the discussion hall in a hurry. He said politely, "Patriarch, there's a person outside who claims to be Jinshin from the Tianyuan family. He has come to visit our Ling family." "What? The Tianyuan family? The Tianyuan family from the Dong'an province?" Chapter 1823. Apart from the appearance of the divine King Duanmu's dwelling, there was only the birth of the Tianyuan family within the divine kingdom of Pingtian in the past few years. After establishing the Tianyuan family in the Dong'an province, Jinshin, who was so mysterious that almost no one knew of his origins, engaged in a great battle with the second overgod, Yin, 1,000,000 kilometers away from the provincial city. Although the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan comprehended the laws of the sword, which was known as one of the laws with the greatest offensive power, Yin of the Wainer clan was not weak either. He comprehended the laws of strength, which was also one of the laws with the greatest offensive power. The two of them were on par in terms of comprehension of laws. However, the outcome of the battle shocked everyone who heard about it. Yin of the Wainer clan had actually suffered a crushing defeat. The patriarch of the Tianyuan family, Jinshin, had emerged unscathed. He had basically completely crushed Yin. Not only did the outcome of the battle shake up the entire Dong'an province, but it also spread through the divine kingdom of Pingtian and the surrounding divine kingdoms, causing a huge uproar. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianshun, had demonstrated his strength to the world through his battle with Weiner Yan. At the same time, many people clearly witnessed his strength through the battle. As a matter of fact, countless people in the divine kingdom of Pingtian believe that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jianshun, was the greatest person in the 6 great provincial cities. This so-called greatest person was the most powerful person in the 36 provinces. At this moment, when the patriarch and the members of the upper echelon of the Ling family heard that the Tian Yuan family had come to visit, they were all stunned. They were extremely surprised. At this moment, the patriarch of the Ling family seemed to think of something. His face suddenly changed, and he glared at the guard who had come to report. He asked urgently, "What did you just say? Who's the visitor?" The guard dared not tarry. He immediately repeated himself. "Patriarch, the person said that it's Jianshun from the Tianyuan family." "Jianshun? Jianshun? Is he?" Towards the end, the guard seemed to understand something. His face changed drastically, and it was filled with fear and disbelief. At that moment, he could not help but think about the glare he had at the visitor. "Jianshun? Isn't that the patriarch of the Tianyuan family? Are you sure you didn't hear wrong? The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianshun, has actually come to visit our Ling family? Did we hear wrong? What kind of status does the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan possess? Moreover, our Ling family has no ties with the Tianyuan clan, so why has he come to visit us, and personally?" At that moment, the discussion hall was the Tianyuan family, was the Tianyuan family of the Tianyuan family of the Tianyuan family, and of the upper echelon of the upper echelon of the family, was. Who dares to impersonate the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan? Quick, everyone, come with me to receive the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. At the same time, inform all the elders of the clan. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan has gone as far as to lower himself to visit our Tianyuan family. Since the ancestor is not present, we will welcome the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan with the greatest ceremony. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, stood up and said loudly to everyone. At the same time, he communicated with all the elders of the clan secretly. At that moment, all the elders in the clan, regardless of whether they were in seclusion or not, were awakened by the patriarch of the Ling family. Only a few seconds had passed since the previous night. The Sky God elders were extremely fast. Almost as soon as they received Ling Majian's message, the Sky God elders who were still in seclusion had completed their actions within a breath of time, even though they were several kilometers away from the patriarch of the Ling family. Very soon, the patriarch of the Ling family gathered all the upper echelon of the Ling family and the elders. They arrived at the entrance of the Ling family as quickly as possible. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, saw Jian Chun waiting outside from afar. His eyes immediately narrowed, and he could not help but show respect. Although Ling Majian had never seen the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan before, he was still the patriarch of an over-god organization after all. He had obtained a portrait of Jianshun through other channels and discovered that the person who had come to visit was exactly the same as the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianshun. Patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian greets the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan's visit has brought light to our Ling family. If we have neglected you in any way, please forgive us. Ling Majian bowed deeply towards Jianshun and said politely. After all, the person standing before him was a lord-level powerhouse. Moreover, he was an extremely powerful overgod. Greetings to the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. Behind Ling Majian, the upper echelon of the Ling family, and all the elders bowed deeply towards Jianshun as well. They all showed respect. As a matter of fact, some of them even showed some uneasiness on their faces. Jianshun smiled faintly. He did not show any arrogance at all. After exchanging some pleasantries with the people of the Ling family, he was invited into the discussion hall. The patriarch of the Ling family no longer sat on the throne in the discussion hall. Instead, he sat with Jianshan with all the upper echelon and elders of the Ling family. They served the best fruits and tea to Jianshan. Jianshan conversed with the people of the Ling family casually, but only Jianshan remained the most composed out of all of them. Everyone in the Ling family, including the patriarch, was extremely careful when they conversed with Jianshan. They were afraid that they would offend this over God if they were careless. The upper echelon and elders constantly tried to curry favor with him as well. Patriarch of the Ling family, have you received any news about Ling Hogong? At this moment, Jianshan became serious and began to ask about Ling Hogong. This was the main reason why he had come to the Ling family in the first place. Jianshan admired Ling Hogong's character quite a lot. He had not seen Ling Hogong since they parted ways in the Divine King's dwelling, so he began to worry for Ling Hogong. Ling Majian's face darkened when he mentioned this. He sighed gently. Ever since the ancestor went to the Divine King's dwelling, he still hasn't returned. At the same time, we haven't received any news, so we don't know much about the ancestor's situation. It's just that we heard that the ancestor offended an extremely large organization in order to obtain a sword in God King Duanmu's dwelling. Sigh. Ling Majian's face was filled with worry. When he learned just how powerful the organization his ancestor had offended was, he had paled on the spot. Chapter 1824. I just hope that the organization doesn't take this matter to heart. Otherwise, if they really do look into it, our Ling family will be in great trouble, Ling Majian said sternly. Jianshan sat there silently. He probably understood the power of the heavenly demon religion better than any other over-god in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even the peak organizations on the cloud plane dared not offend the heavenly demon religion so easily. Ling Hogong had indeed taken quite the risk in order to obtain the sword. I hope Ling Hogong can become powerful as soon as possible after obtaining the divine King Duanmu's legacy. Fortunately, he has only offended a vice leader of a branch of the heavenly demon religion on the cloud plane and not the entire heavenly demon religion, Jianshan thought. He was extremely reluctant to see Ling Hogong die to the hands of the heavenly demon religion. In the past few years, many people with unknown identities have appeared in our sword-seeking province. Even though they're all deities and some are only at the origin realm, our Ling family has been paying close attention to them. However, under the close observation of our Ling family, we discovered that these people seem to be coming for our Ling family. This is because they've basically chosen to stay in inns that are closest to our Ling family. They seem to be monitoring our every move, the clan leader said solemnly. The head of the Ling clan said in a low voice. His face was extremely serious, and there was a deep sense of helplessness mixed within. Even though they knew these people were monitoring their Ling family, they just did not dare to act recklessly. This was because their ancestor was not present. Without him, their Ling family's actions would be rather restricted during this sensitive period of time. This was because they were afraid that a random person would be sent by a large organization. Not only would that not be able to help the Ling family, but it would cause a storm to arrive prematurely. Unknown people? Jianshan's eyes narrowed when he heard that. He thought, are they from the heavenly demon religion, or do they come from other clans with overgods? However, there was nothing Jianshan could do about the current situation of the Ling family. Although he admired Ling Hogong's character and wanted to help him, he did not possess the ability to do so. Jianshan did not stay in the Ling family for too long. Half a day later, he bid farewell to the clan leader. Before he left, he passed a jade talisman to the patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian. He said indifferently, "This jade talisman contains a strand of the power of my soul. If Ling Hogong returns, or if your Ling family is in trouble and needs my help, you can crush this jade talisman. I will hurry over as quickly as possible." Jianshan's actions stunned Ling Majian, the various members of the upper echelon, and the elders of the Ling family. At that moment, all of them could not help but wonder what kind of relationship the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had with their ancestor. It was the first time he had come to the Ling family, yet he was willing to help them so greatly. He even wanted to leave behind a jade talisman for them before he left. Even though he was doubtful, Ling Majian was still overjoyed. He accepted the jade talisman from Jianshan in a hurry and held it like it was a treasure. He thanked him constantly. Jianshan left the sword-seeking province. After confirming the direction, he directly made his way to the royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Back in the divine King Duanmu's dwelling, Ling Hogong did not know him at all, yet he was bold enough to draw his sword against an over-god because of him. Jianshan remembered this deeply. After that brief contact with Ling Hogong, Jianshan began to admire Ling Hogong's character. Now that Ling Hogong was in some trouble, how could he not help him? It was just a pity that he was still too weak right now. There was nothing he could do about the heavenly demon religion that was still a colossal existence to him. Otherwise, he would not have minded personally killing the vice leader of the heavenly demon religion, Huayan, to resolve Ling Hogong's worries. As for the great elder of the heavenly demon religion, he was indeed terrifying. He was so powerful that even Jianshan felt surprised. However, the heavenly demon religion had so many branches in the saints' world. Every single branch had more than a single vice leader. As a result, the entire heavenly demon religion had several dozen vice leaders. As a result, it was very unlikely for the great elder to appear if he only killed a vice leader of the heavenly demon religion. Ling Hogong, this is all I can help you with right now. I hope you take good care of yourself and become powerful soon, thought Jianshan. However, what Jianshan did not know was that the patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, immediately locked himself in a secret room covered in layers of formations as soon as he left the sword-seeking province. His excitement and joy had completely vanished. The light in his eyes flickered as he stared at the jade talisman that Jianshan had given him. He became uncertain. A while later, he took out a jade box and carefully placed the jade talisman that Jianshan had given him inside. At the same time, he cast down layers of formations on the jade box. He did not carry the jade box with him. Instead, he gently placed it in the center of the room before silently leaving. Before long, Ling Majian arrived in an even more well-hidden room deep underground. He glanced around carefully, and only after confirming that there were no problems did he enter the room silently. As soon as he set foot in, the room was immediately enveloped by powerful formations. The formations were so powerful that even over-gods could resist them for a while. Most importantly, the formations could block out the senses of the soul. Only Ling Majian remained in the gloomy room. There was no one else there aside from him. Ling Majian arrived in the center of the room. He formed seals with both hands and used a secret technique. A complicated and profound formation gradually appeared on the floor of the room. Majian, you've summoned me using a secret technique. Has something important happened in the clan? At this moment, an old but vigorous voice rang out from the formation. A white-robed old man appeared in the formation. The old man had white hair and a ruddy complexion. He had the demeanor of a transcendent being. His eyes were bright and full of spirit, as sharp as a sword. Even though he seemed to be over 70 years old, he stood as straight as a javelin, like an unsheathed sword. A powerful sword intent radiated from his body. To no surprise, the old man was Ling Hogong, who had been there for quite some time. Ancestor, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianshan, has just come to visit. Ling Majian told Ling Hogong everything about Jianshan's visit to the Ling family. He had nothing from Ling Hogong. Ancestor, before the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan left, he gave me a jade talisman with a sliver of the power of his soul. He said that if the ancestor returned to the clan, or if our Ling family encountered any problems, to crush the jade talisman. Ancestor, may I ask if the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is reliable and trustworthy? Ling Majian asked carefully. I never thought that brother Jianshan would have already established a Tianyuan family in the Dong'an province. Sigh, it's just a pity that old man can't show himself right now, or I would definitely have gone to congratulate him personally. Ling Hogong sighed emotionally. It had already been several decades since he had contacted the people in the clan. He had remained in seclusion in a secret place all this time, never coming into contact with the outside world. As a result, he had only just learnt that Jianshan had established a clan. Although Old Man and Brother Jinshin haven't known each other for very long, and although the Saint's world is filled with deception, Old Man and I have never misjudged Brother Jinshin. He is definitely a trustworthy person. Majian, although Brother Jinshin is willing to help us, you have to act according to the situation. If our Ling family encounters problems that even Old Man can't deal with, you must not contact Brother Jinshin, just in case you cause trouble for him. Do you understand? Ling Hogong said. Chapter 1825. As you wish, Ancestor. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, replied politely before ending the conversation with Ling Hogong. Ling Majian left the room carefully and cautiously before returning to the room where Jinshin's jade talisman was. The jade talisman that Jinshin had given to Ling Majian was placed in a jade box enveloped by formations. It sat in the center of the room silently. Ling Majian clearly held caution towards Jinshin before. He was afraid that Jinshin would do something to the jade talisman that would allow him to observe everything he did. As a result, he did not take the jade talisman with him when he contacted Ling Hogong through a secret technique. However, after learning from his conversation with Ling Hogong that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jinshin, was a trustworthy person, his wariness plummeted to its lowest. He made his way to the center of the room and bent down to pick up the jade box. After removing the formations on it, he stowed it away in his space ring solemnly, taking good care of it. At the same time, Ling Hogong sat on a mountain peak in an independent miniature world with an ancient sword on his back. He sighed emotionally as he watched the formation slowly vanish. I never thought that my good friends in the past would cut ties with our Ling family in such a straightforward manner when our Ling family is in such a situation. They're all afraid of getting into trouble. Instead, Jinshin, who we've only just met, actually comes to our Ling family at the risk of being targeted by the heavenly demon religion. Brother Jinshin, I, Ling Hogong, will remember your kindness. Even though you haven't provided any actual help to our Ling family, just your intentions are enough. Ling Hogong sighed emotionally. What are you talking about? Old Man Ling, you're already so old, so why are you still talking about love? Hurry up and forge a sword for Bao Bao. At this moment, a golden flying sword flew over from afar and transformed into a little girl with an illusory body. She was very cute and delicate. However, she just happened to have her hands on her hips as she scolded Ling Hogong like she was an old man. Ling Hogong immediately felt cold sweat run down his forehead when he heard the sword spirit say that he was in love. He said that's bullshit. Friendship is friendship. What does it have to do with love? Moreover, I'm no longer in the mood for love. What is a little sword spirit like, you know? The sword spirit puffed up her cheeks from anger. She pointed at Ling Hogong and scolded, "How dare you? Old Man Ling, how dare you say that Bao Bao doesn't know? How dare you say that Bao Bao doesn't know? How dare you look down on Bao Bao? Bao Bao will teach you a lesson." The golden sword immediately shot towards Ling Hogong's sword. Instantly, the sword energy was like a rainbow. Golden light filled the sky and emitted an incomparably dazzling light. Even though the golden flying sword was not controlled by a master, just the presence from the sword spirit was no weaker than an overgod. Ling's heavenly sword was a sword of Ling Ling, was Ling Hogong was stern. He understood how powerful the sword spirit was, so he did not dare to be careless. He immediately drew the ancient sword on his back and called out, "Chaotic Heaven's sword style." A streak of resplendent light shot out from Ling Hogong's hand, hurtling towards the sword spirit aggressively. If Jinshin were present, he definitely would have discovered that Ling Hogong was much more powerful than before. Not only had Ling Hogong successfully broken through from early overgod to mid-overgod, but his comprehension of the laws of the sword as well. Just the chaotic heavens sword style alone allowed Ling Hogong to stand above mid-overgods. He would even be able to put up a fight against late overgods. Old Man Ling, you call that the chaotic heavens sword style? It's basically an insult to the chaotic heavens sword style in your hands. Bao Bao will show you what the true chaotic heavens sword style is, the sword spirit said disdainfully. Suddenly, An even more powerful and pure sword technique shot out from the golden flying sword. With the appearance of the sword chi, the entire world seemed to darken. The sword technique shone with endless light, blotting out the sun, moon, and stars, causing the entire world to dim in comparison. It was as if the sword technique had become the only thing in the world at that moment. When the two chaotic heaven sword styles collided, Ling Hogong's chaotic heaven sword style seemed to be as fragile as mud. It shattered silently. On the other hand, the sword spirit's chaotic heaven sword style was like a streak of light. It surged with sword chi as it directly shot towards Ling Hogong with an unstoppable force. Swish! The sword chi shot past Ling Hogong's head. Although it failed to injure him, it did sever his hair. Ling Hogong's hair was disheveled right now, and he seemed to be in a rather horrible shape. His sagely bearing had completely vanished. My hair? Why? You sword spirit are just too detestable. You've gone too far. Ling Hogong swore in a rather exasperated manner. He felt extremely gloomy inside. Ling Hogong was renowned in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, where very few people dared to offend him. Yet now he had been bullied to such a state by a sword spirit. Do you see that? This is the true chaotic heavens sword style. Old man Ling, I'll teach you to say that Bao Bao doesn't understand it again. Humph. The sword spirit appeared with her hands on her hips. She seemed complacent. You're completely unreasonable. All you know is to pester me endlessly, Ling Hogong said furiously. The sword spirit's complacent expression vanished in the blink of an eye when she heard that. Her chubby face suddenly sank, and she glared at Ling Hogong furiously with her large, pretty eyes. She complained, "How dare you go against your superiors and speak ill of Bao Bao? You even dare to say that Bao Bao is unreasonable and only knows how to pester you endlessly. Am Bao Bao a person like that? Old man Ling, looks like Bao Bao hasn't left a good enough impression on you. Bao Bao will definitely teach you a vicious lesson this time. I'll show you how powerful Bao Bao is. This time, Bao Bao will shock you deeply and leave behind a deep enough impression in your heart so that you'll tremble in fear when you see Bao Bao in the future." The Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons was an organization similar to the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. It was only separated by the Divine Kingdom of 9 stars. However, the current Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons was no longer as dignified and glorious as before. Flames of war rose up everywhere in its vast territory. Basically, all the provincial cities in the Divine Kingdom had been reduced to ruins. Rivers of blood flowed, and the ground had been dyed red. Several decades ago, the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion had attacked the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons. In just a few decades, the 9th army had taken over all the provincial cities in the Divine Kingdom. An army of 100,000 directly approached the royal capital of the Divine Kingdom, surrounding it. Now, the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, which was basically as powerful as the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, only had a single royal capital left standing. Even though the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion only had 100,000 people, it was nothing before the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, which numbered over 100 million. Chapter 1826. Currently, the remaining forces of the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons were all stationed in the royal capital. They used the powerful formations of the royal capital and the national treasure to fend off the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion, temporarily entering a stalemate with the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion. The remaining forces of the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, the powerful formations of the royal capital, and the national treasure created an extremely powerful defense. Even though the heavenly demon religion was far more powerful than the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, they struggled to breach the royal capital in a short amount of time. However, whether it was the 9th army of the heavenly demon religion or the remaining forces of the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, they all understood that this stalemate could not be maintained for too long. Against the 9th army that was far more powerful than the Divine Kingdom of Three Cauldrons, their destruction was only a matter of time. Naturally, News of the battle between the heavenly demon religion and the divine kingdom of three cauldrons had spread long ago. Even though many organizations hated the heavenly demon religion to the core, the strength of the heavenly demon religion filled everyone with a sense of powerlessness. As a result, even though the divine kingdom of three cauldrons was surrounded by the heavenly demon religion and had sent out a request for help, not a single organization came to their aid. This was because the divine kingdom of three cauldrons' opponent, this time, was the heavenly demon religion that many organizations feared. Even though they could easily fend off the Ninth Army if they worked together, or even destroy the Ninth Army, no one dared to do so. Once the Ninth Army was heavily injured, there was still the Eighth Army, the Seventh Army, and even the First Army that could cause many people to pale in fear. As a result, countless people sympathized with the divine kingdom of three cauldrons' current predicament, but no one dared to interfere. At this moment, there was a medium-sized military camp 100 kilometers away from the royal capital of the divine kingdom of three cauldrons. Black clouds churned above the camp as a surging demonic aura gathered there. Every soldier in this military camp cultivated a very powerful and overbearing demonic cultivation method. Therefore, not only did these soldiers have extraordinary cultivation, but their combat strength was also extremely powerful. It was also because of this that the Ninth Legion was able to utterly defeat the divine kingdom of three cauldrons' army of over 100 million with a mere 100,000 soldiers, forcing them to flee in defeat all the way to the imperial city. There was a majestic divine hall in the center of the camp. It was completely blood-red, as if it had been drenched in blood. Vaguely, it gave off the smell of blood. Just by standing outside the temple, one would feel an incomparable sense of oppression. At this moment, a heavy thud suddenly rang out from the divine hall. Afterwards, a rough, cold voice rang out. "It's been 10 years. It's been 10 whole years. Yet our Ninth Army still hasn't broken through the imperial capital of the divine kingdom of three cauldrons. Are the three of you brainless? Can't you think of a way to take this place as quickly as possible? I've already stared at this shitty city for 10 years. I feel annoyed whenever I look at this shitty city." The person who spoke was a burly man. At that moment, he sat on the commander's seat and glared at the group of generals below him with a fiendish gaze. The man was the commander of the Ninth Army of the heavenly demon religion. He was known as the Blood God's Hand, Yin Wuming. At the same time, he was an extremely powerful, divine, king realm expert. Facing the enraged regiment commander, the faces of the group of officers sitting below all turned pale. Clearly, they were extremely afraid of this regiment commander. Every one of them felt as if they were sitting on a carpet of needles. Yin Wuming. At this moment, a gloomy voice rang out in the hall. An illusory, extremely handsome young man in white robes appeared out of thin air. This young man had a feminine expression on his face. At first glance, he was an indescribably handsome man. However, at the next moment, he seemed to be a peerless beauty whose looks could topple nations. If it were not for the fact that he did not have the symbol of a woman on his chest, many people would have mistaken him for a woman. The commander of the Ninth Army of the heavenly demon religion, Yin Wuming, stared at the young man coldly. The vicious light in his eyes did not decrease at all. He smiled and said coldly, "I was wondering who it was that dared to call me by my name. So it's Protector Zong. Protector Zong, you must have come all the way here with your soul. You must not have come for something as simple as a stroll. If you have anything to say it quickly. Once you're done, leave my territory as soon as you're done." Yin Wuming, how arrogant of you. I am a protector of the heavenly demon religion. I can come and go as I please no matter where the 9 armies are. You have no right to speak to me, Protector Zong said coldly. I don't have time to waste with a she-male like you. If you have anything to say it quickly. Once you're done, leave my territory as soon as you're done, Yin Wuming said impatiently. A vicious light flickered in his eyes. You? Protector Zong was furious. His face was ashen from anger. He pointed at Yin Wuming furiously. However, looking at Yin Wuming's fearless appearance, Protector Zong did not dare to do anything in the end. Even if his original body was present, he would not be Yin Wuming's opponent. let alone the fact that he was just a soul projection. Protector Zeng sucked in a deep breath and forcefully suppressed his fury. He said coldly, "I've only come to ask about one thing. Have you captured the successor of the divine, King Duanmu?" "Humph. Can't you see that I'm attacking the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons right now? The divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons has 3 divine kings. If I'm not here, my 9th army will definitely be wiped out by the 3 divine kings. Why the hell would I care about the successor of Duanmu? Moreover, what does Duanmu's successor have to do with me?" Yin Wuming said coldly. Protector Zeng sneered. "Yin Wuming, I won't hide it from you. Vice Leader Huai and is extremely concerned about the divine King Duanmu. Before long, Vice Leader Huai and will emerge from seclusion. Once he learns that the successor of the divine King Duanmu is still in the world, he will become furious. The consequences are not something that you can bear." Yin Wuming finally became stern. Clearly, he was still extremely fearful of the vice leader of the heavenly demon religion. "Yin Wuming, I've delivered the message. Do as you see fit. I'll take my leave," Protector Zeng said coldly before vanishing. Yin Wuming sat on the commander's seat emotionlessly. The light in his eyes flickered, and a while later, he ordered a general below, "Lu Shan, take some people and capture Ling Hogong for me." Chapter 1827. "Yes, sir." A general below stood up and knelt down on one knee. He accepted the order politely. After leaving the divine hall, Lu Shan did not hesitate at all. He immediately summoned his 2 lieutenants. "Commander Lu, what's the matter? Why have you summoned the 2 of us so urgently? Are you preparing to attack the royal capital of the divine kingdom of 3 cauldrons again?" Very soon, 2 burly men in black robes strode over from afar. They radiated with demonic aura. Although they seemed to be strolling leisurely, they could easily cross several hundred or even 1,000 meters with every step they took. It was as if the ground had shrunk to an inch. When they were talking, the 2 of them were still several kilometers away. When they finished speaking, it had only been 2 breaths of time. However, in this short period of time, they had already crossed a distance of several kilometers and appeared in front of Commander Lu Shan, whom they spoke of. "You must have heard about the matter of the divine King Duanmu's successor. Earlier, Protector Zeng sent a sliver of his soul to personally ask about this matter. As a result, the commander has ordered me to go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian and capture Ling Hogong. The 2 of you will come with me," Lu Shan said to the 2 of them. Not only were the 2 of them his lieutenants, but they were also his sworn brothers. "Protector Zeng is personally asking about this matter? Commander Lu, I remember that our regiment commander and Protector Zeng have always been at odds. Why would regiment commander listen to Protector Zeng's words?" Hearing Lu Shan's words, one of the deputy generals said rather puzzledly. Lu Shan became stern. He said sternly, "Vice Leader Huai has emerged from seclusion." The expressions of the 2 lieutenants changed when they heard that. They became filled with undisguised respect and reverence. "There's no time to lose. Commander Lu, let's set off quickly. However, this kid Ling Hogong sure is influential. He's actually able to attract Protector Zeng's attention, and our commander has personally ordered us to capture him. With us 3 overgods personally taking action this time. Even if Ling Hogong dies, it'll be worth it." Lu Shan's 2 lieutenants sneered as a vicious light appeared in their eyes. Outside the majestic royal capital of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, many cultivators and caravans would pass through the huge gates of the royal capital every single day on the many tunnels that led in and out of the royal capital. Occasionally, one could even see luxurious carriages driven by precious exotic beasts, slowly approaching the gates of the royal capital. Those who had the qualifications to own these carriages were, without a doubt, influential figures with some influence. However, no matter how great your background was, even if you came from clans with overgods, flying was forbidden when you entered the royal capital, because this was out of respect for the imperial city. Otherwise, unless you were as powerful as the divine king, you would not be able to ignore the rules and directly fly into the royal capital. Take it. This is your medallion to enter the city. Remember, You have to pay 10 low-grade divine crystals for every day you stay in the royal capital, or you'll be captured by the guards of the royal capital. A guard passed a medallion to Jianshan at the gates of the royal capital and warned Jianshan. Jianshan entered the royal capital with the medallion. What dense origin energy! Compared to the Dong and province, the origin energy here is several times denser. Not only is there a sizable divine crystal mine below the royal capital, but the formations cast down in the royal capital have gathered all the origin energy within a radius of 10 million kilometers. What extravagance! Jianshan walked through the streets of the royal capital as he studied the surroundings with interest. He observed the layout of the royal capital. His current comprehension of the laws of the sword had reached the level of a late overgod. His vision was so great that it could not be compared to the past. With a single glance, he could see many hidden things. The entire royal city is enveloped by an extremely tremendous formation. Every single street and even every single store here is connected to the formation, so the defenses of the entire royal city are impregnable. Even if overgods fight in the royal city, they won't be able to cause any damage to the structures in the city. This is because the tremendous defensive formation has reached the level of the Divine King. Only Divine Kings can get through it. Moreover, apart from the defensive formation, there are also trapping formations and killing formations. With the protection of these formations, even if a Divine King comes to make trouble in the royal capital, they'll be in serious trouble. Jianshan sighed in amazement from the bottom of his heart. He was amazed by the power of the royal capital. He thought that if the formations of the Dong and province were as powerful as this, he would truly have nothing to worry about. At this moment, Jianshan came to a halt. He subconsciously glanced at a store that he was about to pass by. The words "True Sword Pavilion" immediately entered Jianshan's eyes. The words were written in a flamboyant style, and a sharp sword chi seemed to surge out from them. The True Sword Pavilion was clearly a store that specialized in selling flying swords. Jianshan hesitated slightly before entering without any hesitation. There were all sorts of flying swords displayed in the True Sword Pavilion. A few people gathered in groups of 2s and 3s in the large store. They were currently examining the flying swords in a gentlemanly manner, sometimes shaking their heads in disappointment and sometimes nodding in praise. There were a few beautiful women with professional smiles on their faces as they politely welcomed the guests and patiently introduced the various flying swords one after another. There was a group of people who caught the most attention among them. They had basically become the center of attention in the True Sword Pavilion, attracting everyone's attention. They were 2 women and a young man. One of the women had a devastatingly beautiful appearance. Not only was she devastatingly beautiful, but her temperament was also extremely outstanding. She also gave off an otherworldly aura. Her expression was gentle, and she looked gentle and quiet. Just a glance at her was enough to warm people's hearts. The other woman also had an extraordinary appearance, and her expression was filled with an undisguised arrogance. Her slightly curled lips seemed to show that she was a woman with a fierce tongue. As for the young man, he was dressed in luxurious clothes and was extremely handsome. However, his face was filled with arrogance, as if he was looking down on everyone. It was obvious with a single glance that he was a wastrel from an aristocratic clan. The 3 of them were accompanied by a few guards. Even though the guards were only at the peak of reciprocity, it was still possible to tell that the 3 of them were anything but ordinary. Chapter 1828. The other haughty woman couldn't help but feel slightly angry when she saw the young man adore her sister so much while ignoring her. Her expression became somewhat unsightly. "Greetings, young master. May I ask how I could be of service to you?" At this moment, a soft and pleasant voice rang out. A charming female attendant who only seemed to be in her 20s came to receive Jianshan. She smiled faintly and was extremely polite. Jianshan glanced past the dazzling array of flying swords casually, and a sliver of disappointment appeared on his face. He asked the female attendant, "Do you have any better swords? They have to be high quality at the very least. Of course, it would be even better if you have supreme quality ones." Jinshin's flying snow sword had been destroyed long ago. He had never been able to find a suitable flying sword in the past few years. Firstly, it was impossible to find a better flying sword in a place like the Dong'an province. Secondly, medium-quality Saint artifacts were no longer of any use to him with his current strength. Even high-quality Saint artifacts probably would not last him long. Only supreme-quality Saint artifacts were suitable. However, even a high-quality Saint artifact had never appeared in the Dong'an province, let alone a supreme-quality Saint artifact. What? You want supreme-quality flying swords? The face of the charming woman immediately changed when she heard Jinshin's words. She cried out in disbelief. Her cry immediately attracted the attention of all the other customers in the store. Immediately, all of them turned their heads and stared at Jinshin in surprise. Even the two beautiful women and the profligate young man turned their heads. They all stared at Jinshin. What did I hear? What did I hear? Someone actually wants to buy a supreme-quality Saint artifact? Did I hear wrong? Someone actually wants to buy a supreme-quality Saint artifact here? Heavens, where did this bumpkin come from? He wants to buy a supreme-quality Saint artifact as soon as he comes in. What does he think supreme-quality Saint artifacts are? Something that can be found on the streets? Oh, does he have no idea just how valuable supreme-quality Saint artifacts are? The profligate young man could not help but laugh aloud. His words were filled with undisguised mockery and recklessness. I'm going to die from laughter. Ha 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 ha. I'm going to die from laughter. As the young man laughed, the slightly arrogant woman could not help but laugh aloud as well. She stared at Jinshin like she was looking at an idiot. Even the extremely gentle woman could not help but smile faintly. She studied Jinshin carefully. However, when the young man saw her smile, his face immediately sank. A sliver of coldness appeared in his eyes as he cursed and sighed. God damn it. Ruru is actually smiling. Ruru is actually smiling. I pursued Ruru for so long, but she's never smiled at me. Yet this bumpkin who came from who knows where can make her smile with just a few words. God damn it, God damn it. At that moment, the young man's gaze towards Jinshin became rather hostile. Hidden within his gaze was the flames of jealousy. Bastard, if this bumpkin can make Ruru smile, then so be it. But you just happen to be so handsome. God damn it, God damn it. The young man was furious. His gaze gradually became piercing. Jinshin frowned. He glanced at the young man and woman who had mocked him. At the same time, he realized that he had probably underestimated the value of supreme-quality Saint artifacts. Don't you have any supreme-quality Saint artifact for sale here? Jinshin asked the female attendant. The female attendant looked at Jinshin strangely. Even though she had already determined that Jinshin was definitely not someone who had come to buy flying swords, she still replied politely, Young master, I'm sorry to disappoint you. We really don't have any supreme-quality Saint artifacts here, let alone our true sword pavilion. There's probably no place in the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian that sells supreme-quality Saint artifacts. This is because probably only His Majesty can take out supreme-quality Saint artifacts in our divine kingdom of Pingtian. Supreme-quality Saint artifacts are actually so valuable. Jinshin murmured. He was secretly stunned. The value of supreme-quality Saint artifacts had indeed exceeded his expectations. The enchanting woman who had received Jinshin rolled her eyes when she heard Jinshin's murmur. She felt extremely gloomy inside. You don't even know the value of supreme-quality Saint artifacts, yet you want to buy one as soon as you come. Aren't you a typical bumpkin? Haha, he actually doesn't know the value of supreme-quality Saint artifacts at all. A person who doesn't even know what supreme-quality Saint artifacts look like dares to buy one shamelessly. What a joke. This is the first time I've seen such a weirdo in all my life. Even if he really does possess a supreme-quality Saint artifact, he probably doesn't have the ability to use it, the haughty woman giggled. Her eyes were filled with disdain. Jinshin frowned heavily. Even though he was not interested in arguing with these people who were only deities at most, he would still be in a bad mood after being mocked time and time again. He immediately stared at the woman coldly and said emotionlessly, Miss, Whether I've seen a supreme quality saint artifact or not doesn't seem to have anything to do with you. Even if I really can't use a supreme quality saint artifact, what does that have to do with you? The haughty woman glanced at Jianxun as deep disdain filled her eyes. She did not reply, as if Jianxun had no right to speak to her. Instead, she looked at the gentle, virtuous woman beside her and said, "Sister Ruru, let's go. Ignore this bumpkin. No matter how pretty he is, he can't hide his bumpkin nature." The haughty woman paused when she reached there. She glanced at Jianxun again in disdain and continued, "Even if he's faking it all, it only means that he's putting on an act. He just wants to attract Sister Ruru's attention or even slowly win her heart. But he's underestimating Sister Ruru far too much. Does he think he can fool us with his little tricks? It'll only make us look down on him more and more." Chapter 1829. If that country bumpkin had an ordinary appearance, it would have been fine. However, he was even more handsome than him. In particular, that country bumpkin faintly revealed a strong sense of self-confidence, which made him feel extremely displeased. The woman called Ruru nodded gently. She was gentle, virtuous, and peaceful. Everything she did and said was like the daughter of a large clan. She did not give off any sense of arrogance at all. She stared at Jianxun again and studied him seriously before making her way to the second floor. The young man just happened to notice Ruru's actions, which immediately made his face become even uglier. He glared at Jianxun resentfully before making his way to the second floor. Jianxun did not care about any of this. As his strength increased, his mental state gradually changed as well. These wastrels who were deities at most were only children in his eyes. If a child scolded an adult, was he supposed to scold them back? That would only make him seem narrow-minded. Moreover, he knew that asking for a supreme quality saint artifact as soon as he came in had been a little too abrupt. "Then do you have any high-grade flying swords?" Jianxun asked again. He could only ask for the next best thing since he could not buy a supreme quality saint artifact. The woman who received Jianxun glanced at the group of people who had already vanished from the staircase. She clearly became rather impatient with Jianxun's question, but she did not show it at all. This was because she vaguely understood that Jianxun had asked for a supreme quality saint artifact right from the start, just to attract the attention of the girl called Ruru. Asking about a high-quality saint artifact right now was just to give himself an excuse to enter the second floor. "Young master, we just happen to have a few high-quality saint artifacts, but they're all on the second floor." The woman continued to smile like a professional. It was impossible to tell what she was thinking. "Take me up there," Jianxun said without any hesitation at all. He really did lack a suitable weapon right now. "Yes, young master. Please come with me." The woman scorned inside as she led Jianxun to the second floor extremely politely. As soon as he entered the second floor, Jianxun saw the three disciples with a single glance. They were currently choosing their flying swords carefully under the protection of a few guards. The three disciples had clearly discovered Jianxun as well. The young man's face immediately darkened as he furiously said, "Brat, you really are like a ghost that won't leave. Wherever we go, you'll follow. If you know what's good for you, piss off immediately. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The young man had believed that Jianxun's appearance on the first floor of the True Sword Pavilion was only a coincidence. However, after hearing the arrogant woman's words, he became slightly convinced that Jianxun only wanted to buy a supreme quality saint artifact as soon as he entered the True Sword Pavilion to attract Ruru. In order to prevent Ruru from paying too much attention to Jianxun, the young man hurriedly got Ruru to enter the second floor of the True Sword Pavilion. However, the young man had never thought that Jianxun would actually follow the three of them to the second floor as soon as they entered. This confirmed his suspicions that Jianxun had come for Ruru. Ruru was the goddess that he had admired for a very long time. How could he allow someone who was just as handsome as him to attract her attention? As a result, he made up his mind that he could not allow Jianxun to remain here no matter what. When the arrogant woman saw Jianxun follow them, a sliver of impatience appeared on her face. However, she seemed to think of something, and a gleam of light flashed through her eyes. She thought, the person that Yang Tai truly likes is Ruru. As long as Ruru isn't married, Yang Tai won't give up. This person seems like a talent as well. If he really can capture Ruru's heart, it'll be good for me. At the very least, Yang Tai will give up on Ruru. When she thought up to there, the arrogant woman did not feel any repulsion towards Jianshan's existence at all. Instead, she became rather eager to see if Jianshan could really capture Ruru's heart. Yang Tai clearly can't help himself. With Yang Tai's background, that person will definitely suffer greatly. No, I have to help that person, thought the woman. Just when she was about to help Jianshan out, she heard Jianshan's voice ring out. You think too highly of yourself. I've only come here to buy a flying sword because it just so happens to be on the way. How am I tailing you? Also, please watch your mouth. Be careful of what you say, Jianshan said indifferently with some coldness. As the saying went, even a person made out of clay had a temper. Even though Jianshan did not want to lower himself to the same level as these people, if they crossed his bottom line, he would probably have no choice but to teach them a lesson. Everyone on the second floor of the True Sword Pavilion was stunned by Jianshan's threatening words. They all turned around and stared at Jianshan in disbelief. The female attendant who had led Jianshan to the second floor paled slightly. She knew the young man's background very well. He was definitely one of the most important figures in the royal capital. Very few people dared to offend him. Isn't this person a little too bold? Doesn't he know who he's threatening? That's the young master of the Yang family, thought the female attendant. At that moment, she had no idea whether bringing Jianshan to the second floor was the right decision or the wrong decision. The consequences of offending the Yang family would definitely not be good. For a moment, even the young man was rendered speechless. He stared at Jianshan in a daze, as if he was unable to react. This was the first time in his life that someone had threatened him. Jianshan ignored everyone's shock. He made his way over to the high-quality flying swords and studied them carefully. He could tell with a single glance that there were only 4 high-quality flying swords on the second floor of the True Sword Pavilion. Although there were quite a few other flying swords, they were all medium-quality swords without exception. 2 of the 4 high-quality flying swords possessed the attributes of the 5 elements. They shone with dazzling, fire-red light and earthen yellow light. The other 2 flying swords were enveloped by a powerful white light. From the outside, all that could be seen was a ball of dazzling white light. It was very difficult to see the actual flying swords hidden within. A gleam of light flickered through Jianshan's eyes as he stared at the 2 flying swords. His gaze directly pierced through the light from the 2 flying swords, allowing him to clearly see the actual swords hidden within. How much for this sword? Jianshan pointed at one of the high-quality flying swords as he asked the female attendant. It was also at this moment that Yang Tai finally returned to his senses. His face sank as he became furious. He pointed at Jianshan and called out, "How bold of you to threaten this young master. Do you know who I am?" With Yang Kai's call, the guards he had brought with him all began to move. They surrounded Jianshan as they glared at Jianshan viciously. Although they were only at peak reciprocity, even a few deities or gods would not dare to touch them in the royal capital. This was because touching them would mean offending the Yang family. Chapter 1830. Cut off this person's tongue for this young master. This young master wants him to be unable to speak from now on. After that, break his arms and legs and bring him back to the clan. This young master wants him to understand the consequences of daring to threaten this young master. Yang Tai ordered the guards. "Yes, young master." The guards all responded. Cold light flickered through their eyes as they all moved towards Jianshan in an attempt to capture Jianshan. They were all extremely familiar with the technique and worked together with great teamwork. Clearly, they had done something like this countless times already. However, just when their hands were about to touch Jianshan, there was a sudden flash of white light. The white light was extremely small, only the size of a finger, but it appeared at an unbelievable speed. Before they could even sense its existence with their strength at peak reciprocity, the white light had already vanished silently. In the next moment, the guards felt a heart-wrenching pain from their arms at the same time, causing them to involuntarily cry out. Their voices were filled with pain. Bright red blood gushed out from their arms like a fountain. The arms of the guards had all been severed from their bodies. They had been severed without them realizing it at all. The eyes of the people on the second floor of the True Sword Pavilion suddenly narrowed. They all widened as they stared at the armless guards in disbelief. They were all shocked, confused, and doubtful. None of them were powerful. Aside from the woman called Ru, who was an early deity, the others were all at reciprocity. They did not even have the right to observe the flash of white light with their strength. As a result, they naturally had no idea how the arms of the guards had been severed. All they saw was the guards extending their hands towards Jinshin. However, just when they had extended their hands halfway, they had been severed from their bodies without any prior signs. They had directly fallen to the ground. It was an extremely strange sight. Only the woman called Ruru sensed the flash of white light with her cultivation as a deity. Disbelief filled her eyes as she stared at the white-robed Jinshin, who stood there leisurely. She did not see how Jinshin had done it either. As a matter of fact, she could see that Jinshin had not even moved a finger as he stood there. However, she knew that the loss of the arms of the guards was directly related to Jinshin. The guards who had lost their arms all paled as they cried out in pain. Their cries were earth-shattering when they connected, let alone the entire True Sword Pavilion. Even the people on the streets in the distance could hear their cries clearly. Jinshin frowned. He said, "If you want to scream, go downstairs. Don't get in the way of me buying a flying sword." With that, Jinshin kicked out a few times without holding back, kicking the guards out of the window like dead dogs. They landed on the streets outside heavily. His actions immediately caused the female attendant who had led him up to pale in fright. She thought, oh no, this person has completely offended the Yang family now. The Yang family definitely won't let this go. Although this has nothing to do with me, I was the one who brought this guest up after all. I probably won't be able to escape the punishment of a Yang family. How dare you injure this young master's guard? Do you know who this young master is? I'm the young master of a Yang family. Yang Tai's face paled as he pointed at Jinshin furiously. The Yang family? Jinshin's face changed. He could not help but glance at the young man carefully. He asked, is it Yang Kai's clan? Yang Tai's face brightened when he heard that. He thought that Jinshin was afraid, so he immediately became arrogant. He said proudly, that's right, Yang Kai is my great-grandfather. Looks like you're not ignorant after all, to actually know my great-grandfather's name. If you know what's good for you, kneel before me immediately and cow down 9 times. Then, I won't make things difficult for you today. Yang Tai could only blame his poor eyesight. He failed to see that when Jinshin called out Yang Kai's name, Jinshin's expression remained the same. He was extremely calm and did not show any fear at all. Moreover, he directly called Yang Kai by his name. He did not refer to him as senior like everyone else. Your great-grandfather does have some strength, but who knows how many people are stronger than your great-grandfather in the world. There are some people you can't afford to provoke, which will only lead to your death, Yang Tai said indifferently. There was some coldness in his voice. I'll let you go this time out of respect for your great-grandfather, but only this time. I won't do it again. That's right. There are many people stronger than my great-grandfather in the world, but you're not one of them. Moreover, with your lowly status, you don't have the right to speak to me like that. However, I remember what you said today. I'd like to see just how long you can be arrogant for, Yang Tai said viciously. He knew that he was not Jinshin's opponent with his current strength. He could only return and get reinforcements. Afterwards, Yang Tai looked at Ruru and said, Ruru, let's go. Young Master Yang, I still haven't chosen my flying sword. You can go back first, Ruru said to Yang Tai gently and calmly. Yang Tai's face immediately became extremely ugly. He swung his sleeve and turned around to leave with a sunken face. Yang Tai, wait for me. The haughty woman bid farewell to Ruru in a hurry and immediately chased after him with her guards. Jinshin looked at the flying sword he had his eyes on again and asked the attendant, how much is this flying sword? The charming attendant basically cried as she accompanied Jinshin. Regardless of whether Jinshin had actually come to buy a high-grade flying sword or not, Even though she would receive a handsome reward from selling a high-grade flying sword, she did not care about that at all. All she wanted was for Jianshun to leave as soon as possible and divert the attention of the Yang family. With the True Sword Pavilion's background, there was no need to fear the Yang family, but she was just an attendant with no background. Moreover, she was the one who had brought Jianshun to the second floor. If the Yang family decided to pursue the matter, she would definitely suffer. However, she did not dare to say that out loud. This was a person who did not even fear the Yang family, so he definitely came from a large clan. She did not dare to offend someone like that. Young master, this flying sword is called Startling Rainbow. It sold for 6 million high-grade divine crystals, the attendant said as she felt extremely uneasy. What? 6 million high-grade divine crystals? Jianshun was stunned when he heard the price. Even the flying snow sword from the Dong and province only sold for 100,000 mid-grade divine crystals. Chapter 1831. The flying snow sword was a medium-quality saint artifact, while the startling rainbow sword was only a high-quality saint artifact. There is only a difference of a single grade between them, but the difference in price was several hundred times. Jianshun was extremely surprised by this. Jianshun stared at the startling rainbow sword that shone brightly and was surrounded by sword chi. He fell silent for a moment, but the light in his eyes flickered as he hesitated. Clearly, the startling rainbow sword's price had completely exceeded Jianshun's expectations. It actually cost a terrifying 6 million high-grade divine crystals. That was high-grade divine crystals, not mid- or low-grade divine crystals. Although he still had the 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystals from the Divine King of the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, which was more than enough for him to buy the startling rainbow sword, he wanted to exchange them for the startling rainbow sword. He originally planned on giving them to Shangwan Mu and the others after exchanging them for mid- and low-grade divine crystals. He did not want to waste too much here. 6 million high-grade divine crystals was equivalent to 600 million mid-grade divine crystals. Such a tremendous amount of resources was enough for all of them to become gods. Of course, that was only if their comprehension of laws could keep up. Young master, the price of a startling rainbow sword is actually relatively low among high-quality saint artifacts. Many slightly better high-quality saint artifacts can reach the price of 10 million. May I ask if young master wishes to buy this high-quality saint artifact? The attendant said. Although his tone was very polite, the anxiety in his voice could be heard by anyone. As for her last sentence, it even seemed like she was trying to chase him away. She was basically telling him to buy the high-quality saint artifact as soon as possible if he wanted to buy it, or leave if he did not want to buy it. This was because Jianshun had offended the people of the Yang family. If Jianshun continued to stay, she would not be able to avoid trouble. She naturally hoped that Jianshun would leave sooner so that the attention of the Yang family would be diverted away. Jianshun seemed to understand what the attendant was implying. He glanced at the attendant and said indifferently, "A medium-quality saint artifact is only 100,000 mid-grade divine crystals. Why is a high-quality saint artifact so expensive? Looks like this young master doesn't understand the value of a high-grade saint artifact." At this moment, a gentle voice came from not far away. The voice was very pleasant to the ears. The woman called Ruru looked over. Her limpid eyes shone as she stared at Jianshun very calmly. She said, "The reason why there's such a huge difference in price between medium-quality saint artifacts and high-quality saint artifacts is because high-quality saint artifacts are extremely difficult to forge. At the same time, the materials required to forge them are extremely difficult to find. There are quite a few artificers who can forge medium-quality saint artifacts in the Divine Kingdom of Pingtian. Basically, every provincial city has an artificer like that. As a matter of fact, some provincial cities even have a few of them. However, master craftsmen who can forge high-quality saint artifacts are as rare as phoenix feathers and Qilin horns. Across the surrounding kingdoms, there are only 4 or 5 of them. But in our Divine Kingdom of Pingtian, there's not a single artifact forging master like that. All the high-quality saint artifacts are basically brought back from other divine kingdoms. That's why high-quality saint artifacts are so valuable. The woman called Ruru glanced at Jinshin deeply when she reached there. She continued, "As for the supreme quality saint artifact that the young master wanted before, it's even more valuable. Not only is it several hundred or even 1,000 times more valuable than the startling rainbow sword, but it's also priceless." "Thank you for telling me." Jianshan clasped his fist at Ruru. Ruru's explanation had allowed him to gain some understanding of high-quality saint artifacts and supreme quality saint artifacts. "There's no need to be so polite, young master. It's just that you've offended the people of the Yang family earlier. With how the Yang family normally acts, they definitely won't just let this matter go. It's best if you leave sooner. Even if you possess some background and no longer fear the Yang family, Yang Tai probably won't let go of the lady who led the way so easily," Ruru said to Jianshan very indifferently. Jianshan frowned slightly when he heard that. The female attendant who had received Jianshan had indeed paled in fright at that moment. She was completely devoid of blood, and even her body trembled gently. She was filled with fear. "I'll buy the startling rainbow sword," Jianshan suddenly said to the female attendant. With a wave of his hand, 6 blocks of high-quality divine crystals directly fell to the ground with a heavy thud. The female attendant immediately became stunned. She stared at the 6 blocks of high-quality divine crystals blankly as her breathing became rather ragged. At the same time, she was greatly surprised. She had never thought that Jianshan would actually possess the ability to purchase a high-quality saint artifact. Moreover, he did not even bat an eyelid when he took out 6 million high-quality divine crystals. Even the woman called Ruru was slightly surprised. She had never thought that Jianshan would possess so many divine crystals. Even to some overgods, 6 cubic meters of divine crystals was an extremely tremendous amount. "Young master, please wait a moment. I'll call the manager over right now." The female attendant hurried off. Her face was filled with excitement and joy. She had successfully sold a high-quality saint artifact. Let alone the fact that just the commission was an astronomical figure to her. She could also be promoted through this. Once she possessed a certain level of status in the True Sword Pavilion, she would no longer have to fear Yang Tai's revenge. Very soon, the manager of the True Sword Pavilion hurried over and successfully completed the transaction with Jianshan. Before long, Jianshan left the True Sword Pavilion with the startling rainbow sword that he had just spent 6 million high-quality divine crystals on. He found a large, luxurious inn and directly booked the most luxurious suite there. After hanging a sign that read "Seclusion outside," he immediately began to refine the startling rainbow sword. "With this high-quality saint artifact, my strength will increase by quite a lot. It's just a pity that I won't be able to find a supreme quality saint artifact," thought Jianshan. He felt rather regretful before activating the defensive formations in the room. As Jianshan refined the startling rainbow sword, Yang Tai hurried to the True Sword Pavilion with a group of people from the Yang family. Not only were there several deities among them, but there was even an elder who was a god as well. The True Sword Pavilion dared not tarry when faced with the aggressive group of people from the Yang family. The manager personally stepped forward and smiled at Yang Tai. "Young Master Yang, unfortunately, you've come too late. The person you're looking for has already left. He's not in our True Sword Pavilion." That person has left. I'll naturally search the entire city for him. However, there's a female attendant in your True Sword Pavilion. Who's with that person? I need to take her away, Yang Tai said coldly. The manager of the True Sword Pavilion blocked the entrance, so he did not dare to charge in with his people. "Apologies, young Master Yang. I've just sold a high-quality saint artifact and made great contributions to the True Sword Pavilion. I've already been promoted to a vice attendant of the True Sword Pavilion, so you can't take her with you," the manager said politely. "What? Sold a high-quality saint artifact? Did that person really buy a high-quality saint artifact?" Yang Tai was surprised, but he soon became overjoyed. "Young master, since that person has the ability to buy a high-quality saint artifact, his background definitely isn't weak. It might even be a clan with an overgod. You can't be reckless. You can't offend a powerful clan over something as trivial as this, the elder from the Yang family said from beside Yang Tai.